Rob, it is deafening in here at Autzen Stadium as we welcome you to Fox College Football presented by Volkswagen. Nebraska out of the Big Ten travels to Eugene to take on Oregon. Big Ten against Pac-12, and what a great way to keep this college football Saturday rolling. Welcome inside. Joe Davis, Brady Quinn, Bruce Feldman joins us in just a moment. The Ducks an impressive start to the Willie Taggart era last week with a 77 points in the win against Southern Utah, but impressive nonetheless, and it seems like Willie Taggart is injecting life back into this program.
Much like what he did at Western Kentucky, South Florida, he's doing it here at Oregon. He's doing it with energy, enthusiasm, excitement. We were here a year ago, a completely different feeling at practice yesterday compared to playing against Washington last year where things felt dead.
And here come the Ducks. Now, one of the biggest recruiting moves that Willie Taggart had in his first season was convincing Royce Freeman to hang around.
And what makes him so special is his balance. He's a big back, but he's got the ability to keep his feet and break tackles in the open field. And then it's his vision. He can see the backside cut, and he's got the acceleration and the speed to be able to take it home for the touchdown. And he's a quarterback's best friend. Sometimes when you're in pressure situations, you can dub it down to him. Don't make a bad play into a good play. He's a complete back. He blocks well, too. He's one of the best friends a quarterback can have for Justin Herbert at Oregon.
On the other side is Mike Riley, who is an Oregon native, the former head coach at Oregon State, back into his home state here. And he's got a quarterback for the first time who really fits his system in Tanner Lee.
Your prototypical pocket passer, but this will be the toughest experience, the toughest test he's ever faced in his career after transferring from Tulane.
All right, it's the Huskers and the Ducks. A great environment here in Eugene, and we've got opening kickoff coming up on the other side of this break. Fox College Football presented by Volkswagen, and before kick, here's Bruce Feldman.
Joe, this is a homecoming for Mike Riley. Last night, he hosted a reunion of sorts for 20 members of the Corvallis class of 1971. He goes, some of these guys I haven't seen in like 20 years. It's pretty awesome to see them. I said, you having a challenge, balance and all this? He goes, nah, I coached against my dad in the CFL. I do love this, though.
He's won one game here while he was a head coach at Oregon State. First time that he brings Nebraska to Eugene. Nebraska won the toss and deferred to the second half, so they'll kick to Tony Brooks James, and off we go in Eugene. Took it back for a touchdown to open last week's game. This one's over his head. And the Ducks to begin at the 25-yard line with a sophomore from right here in Eugene, who Willie Taggart says has a chance to be a star. It's Justin Herbert.
And he's a smooth operator. Very poised for a guy who's a true sophomore. He's a good decision maker. Hasn't thrown an interception his last 92 attempts, and a deceptive athlete. He's tall, long legs, but he's faster than you think, and he can hurt you in the running game.
Took over midseason last year as a true freshman. First time the Ducks had a true freshman at quarterback since 1983, and he grew as that season went on. Really happy about where he is for game 2 of his sophomore year. From the 25, they start in the quick game, and underneath to the tight end, Jacob Breland. First career receptions last week. He's got a gain of 12 and a first down for the Ducks. There's Willie Taggart, 8th season as a head coach. 3 years at Western Kentucky, 4 years at USF, and now taking over this Oregon program. From the 38-yard line, it's Freeman's first carry with a gaping hole off the left side. Royce Freeman turns the corner for a first down to the 34. 27 yards for the nation's top active rusher.
We talked about his vision. He presses the hole, he sees it, and he accelerates through to the outside for the big gain.
Ran for $150 in the opener last week and 4 touchdowns. He's got it again. This time nowhere to go. Finally, Nebraska's defense stands up.
If you're going to have success running against this Nebraska defense, it's not going to be up the middle, at least not early in this game. It has to be on the edges, much like you saw a couple plays ago. Another thing to keep your eye on, different personnel groupings from Oregon. Could be some times today where you see 3 running backs in the backfield at some point. I think both teams were a little bit conservative last week in their week 1 games.
Out of the pistol on 2nd and 9. Herbert off play action. All day to throw. End zone shot, but too tall. Intended receiver was Dylan Mitchell. Defended by Lamar Jackson. It's 3rd down.
All that excitement for Justin Herbert. This is one of the throws you'd like to see him make. He's got the post coming over the top. Just too much excitement, a little bit too high. And from being there before, Joe, I know how he feels. Once he settles in, he's one of the most accurate passers you're going to find in the Pac-12.
17-21 in the week 1 win over Southern Utah. Oregon looking at its first 3rd down. Herbert steps into a sideline throw. Brendan Schooler makes the catch for the touchdown.
The former defensive back transitioned to wide receiver. They talked about his ability to elevate and make the big play.
And he didn't make that move from safety until camp. Played him at receiver some in the blowout last week. Had a couple of catches. But here he goes over the top of DiCaprio Boodle for an Oregon touchdown. Aiden Schneider adds the extra point. And the Ducks with an impressive opening drive. The sophomore out of Dana Point, California, takes advantage of the offensive line protecting Justin Herbert, giving him plenty of time to sit back there and let it fly. The Ducks on top. Nebraska's offense out there when you come back. Well, what Oregon wears is always part of the story, but even a little bit bigger part of the story today, Bruce.
Yeah, Joe, these are special uniforms. They were designed by 3 pediatric cancer survivors who collaborated with 3 Oregon players for these uniforms with special motivational slogans. All the proceeds for the gear, and not just for the uniforms, for the gloves, the shirts and hats, they're going to go to benefit the Dornbecker Children's Hospital, and it's a pretty awesome thing they've done.
Yeah, very cool. Nebraska sent to get it for the first time. And a touchback for Spielman. So the Huskers will start at the 25-yard line with Tanner Lee. We talked about off of the top. A transfer from Tulane, who last weekend against Arkansas State saw his first game action in 22 months.
And he's got a quick release. He can really get the football out when he needs to, but don't mistake that for him not having a strong arm. He can heave it down the field, and you talked about the experience at Tulane. That's going to help him, but this is going to be the toughest road test he's ever faced.
A drop back and a sideline throw. It's Stanley Morgan, knocked away and intercepted. Tyree Robinson on his first play of the season for the Ducks returns it 39 yards.
The safety who missed last week, and when we talked to defensive coordinator, there he is on the right side of your screen. When we talked to Jim Leavitt, he said, well, I don't know how well he's going to be able to play. This is his first time coming back into a live game scenario, able to come up with the opportunistic pick. And again, credit Thomas Graham being able to disrupt the concentration of wide receiver Stanley Morgan.
This is an Oregon defense that a year ago was third worst in the country, giving up more than 40 points per game. So they went out and hired that man, Jim Leavitt, who turned around the defense at Colorado most recently. Oregon teed up at the 20. They fake the sweep. Herbert scans. He can run. He's got room inside the 10. And they'll spot him where he started the slide, which is a yard short, 2nd and 1.
That's the X factor that Justin Herbert brings to this game. He's 6'6". He can see all across the field over that big offensive line, but he can also take off and scoot.
On 2nd and short, here's Freeman. He's got a first down.
One of the biggest differences looking at Oregon last week, week 1 game, was their offensive line. I mean, last year they would get in position, they would get blocks, but now they're maulers. They're really trying to push the line of scrimmage. Today versus this front for Nebraska, it's not going to be so easy.
On 1st and goal, into the short side of the field, Johnny Johnson III gets pile driven down by Dedrick Young and Eric Lee, and it will be 2nd down. A lot like Oregon's defense, the Nebraska defense going through a change, transitioning to the 3-4. Bob Diaco in his first year as the D coordinator.
Gave up a lot of yards last week to Arkansas State, but look, that's going to be a good team. They have a chance to win the Sun Belt, and the quarterback was slinging it all over the field, but they didn't give up the big plays in the red zone. That's going to be key here.
Only 2 touchdowns and 5 red zone trips last week. And they've bottled up Freeman here with Carlos Davis getting the tackle, making it 3rd and goal.
Bob Diaco didn't show a whole lot last week with Nebraska's defense. Kind of kept things vanilla. That's part of the process. You think, will he elect to bring pressure here? The biggest question for Oregon is they don't have a ton of big targets. They got to keep your eye on number 27. Jacob Breland stands at 6'5". Right there.
Freeman joins Herbert in the backfield on 3rd down and goal. They bring 4. Herbert floating, end zone, touchdown. Charles Nelson on a perfectly thrown ball.
Their most experienced wide receiver. He's got a ton of speed. You're going to see them run kind of a little switch route as he goes to the corner of the end zone. Justin Herbert throws this with perfect amount of pace and touch to allow Nelson to run to the corner of the end zone.
And so Herbert has started the game 4 for 5 with a pair of touchdowns. 1 to Brennan Schooler, 1 to Charles Nelson. And Schneider back out there for the extra point. First big test of the Willie Taggart era. Off to a heck of a start. Tipped in the air and intercepted by Robinson. And 5 plays later, they're in the end zone again. Nebraska looks to answer when you come back. Back in Eugene, and we could not have asked for a better day, which is newsworthy because there was some concerns that this game would be moved as far as the time, maybe even the date, because of the smoky air, poor air conditions in the area with the wildfires across Oregon. The freshman Spielman took one back last week. They'll have an opportunity at this one from the 7. They've got him cut down shy of the 20. So this is a home and home between these squads. Last year in Lincoln, September 17th, Kanai Benoit raced in from 41 yards in the 3rd quarter to get the Ducks back to within 2 at 28-26. And then in the 4th quarter, they took the lead. It was Tony Brooks James up the middle at 32-28. But Tommy Armstrong, the senior, with 2.5 left from 34 yards in a game where Oregon failed 4 2-point conversions. Mike Riley's squad with a 35-32 win. Lee was intercepted on Nebraska's first play. This drive begins with a Trey Bryant run, and he sticks his nose down for 5. 1 week after he scampered for 192.
31 carries. I mean, they obviously fed him the football, and this is a Nebraska offense that's going to rotate in some of their running backs. But right now, if you're Tanner Lee, first pass of the game, you end up throwing an interception. Now we really get to see what he's made of.
We talked about it right off of the top, the toughest environment that he'll have played in his career. Oregon's got 2 touchdowns. They've run 2 plays. Bryant again, nowhere to go. Pulled down by Troy Dye, a freshman All-American a season ago, and off to a good start as a sophomore.
Well, one of the best things about Troy Dye is when he sees this hole open, he's going to fire his gun. He's going to accelerate through the hole to be able to make the tackle for loss. That's one thing you see really with any Jim Leavitt defense. He allows those linebackers to really run free and be able to shoot gaps when they have the opportunity to.
3rd and 7. Lee lets it fly. Wants Morgan. Tipped in the air and incomplete. Arion Springs with the coverage. And a 3-and-out for the Huskers.
They're continually looking for one-on-one coverage at the top of your screen with Stanley Morgan, this time on Arion Springs. But Springs, he stays in contact with Morgan the whole time and wisely looks back to make a play on the football to break up the conversion.
One of the best returners Oregon's ever had in Charles Nelson. That's saying a lot. Some of the return men they've had here. Caleb Lightbourne. A short punt. And it takes an Oregon bounce down at the 48. Only 31 yards for Lightbourne. Willie Taggart taking over this Oregon program that, for a decade, was one of the dominant programs in all of college football. But then last year, the 2nd losing season over the last quarter century, and led to Mark Helfrich's firing.
I think one of the things we've seen from Oregon is they've always had a prolific offense. I mean, even during some of the down years, they were one of the better rushing teams, one of the more productive teams offensively. It's really been the demise of their defense. And that was one of the reasons why head coach Willie Taggart decided to go out and find a way of getting one of the best defensive coordinators in Jim Leavitt. Talked about Willie Taggart, his ability to be able to rebuild programs. Jim Leavitt's done that throughout his career as well, not only as a head coach, but also as a defensive coordinator.
And a whistle.
Delay of game. Offense. 5-yard penalty, still 1st down.
It's a Big Ten officiating crew, John O'Neill, that had referee today. If there was one issue for Oregon last week in that blowout win, it was that they were penalized 12 times.
Penalized a number of times. I was more concerned really for the defensive side of the football. A number of pass interferences being a little bit over-aggressive, but sometimes that's what you want to see out of your defensive backs.
So 1st down and 15, and they give it to Freeman, who's pulled down by Luke Gifford. A team-high 9 tackles in the opener last week for a guy who had only 7 tackles over his first 3 years on campus.
I really feel like he fits in Bob Diaco's 3-4 scheme better. And you look at his body size and type and the way he's able to play at that outside linebacker position. He'll move to a defensive end in 4-down fronts. Very versatile player.
Oregon quickly on it on 2nd down. Herbert has that one tipped and incomplete. It was Gifford that got his hand on it. 3rd down.
Just another example. He plays well in space. He tackles well in space, but he's actually good dropping into zone coverage.
There's a safety initially. He's helped make it 3rd down and 12. Nebraska looking for its first stop. In coverage for the Huskers on 3rd and 12, and a screen for Freeman. Gets around Gifford, puts his shoulder down. He needed 12 and got 9, so it's 4th and 3.
A good series for the Nebraska defense. Luke Gifford in particular was a part of all 3 of those plays, really getting a hand on Royce Freeman to bring him down and force the punt.
The offense stayed out there for a moment, but now Willie Taggart sends the punt team on the field. What do you think?
You've got the momentum. You're up 14-0 at this point, and you're in plus territory. You feel pretty confident about what your defense has been able to do so far, and your offense being able to convert.
That's DeMornay Pierson-El, who was an All-American as a freshman in 2014, taking 3 punts back for touchdowns. He's been banged up since then. Backpedals on a fair catch, and Adam Stack, the true freshman punter, pins him at the 5. The Ducks in the first big test of the Willie Taggart era, off to a good start. Nebraska has it after this. like Bruce touched on off of the top, Nebraska head coach Mike Riley is from here in Oregon. Grew up in Corvallis, coming to games here with his dad as a coach at Oregon State. His first coaching job came in Division III Linfield. Of course, the 14 years over 2 stints as the head coach at Oregon State before taking over the Nebraska job, and now in his 3rd season at the head of the Husker program. His team backed into its own end with a 1st and 10 from the 5. Trying to get Trey Bryant going, and he's got room off the right side for 5 yards. It'll be 2nd and 5 after this. Game break with Sam Farber.
Thank you, Joe. Willie Taggart picked up his first win at Oregon last week. Tom Herman still looking for his first with the Longhorns, taking on San Jose State today. And Chris Warren goes for 41 yards and his first score of the season, 14-0 Texas. They've got just over a minute left in the first half.
Good to see Texas bouncing back, and you see the impact of Chris Warren. They really thought he was something special last year before he got injured.
2nd and 5. Bryant again. Look at him dancing, and it's actually Mikael Wilbon on the carry. He'll dance his way out of trouble to get a gain of 4.5, 3rd and short.
This is what they need to do. They need to run the football effectively so they can stay in these 3rd and short, 3rd and manageable situations. Tanner Lee's already thrown an interception so far. Doesn't seem as if he's feeling overly confident, and I'm sure it's tough being backed up. With all the noise, this atmosphere right now, it's a lot to handle for a quarterback in his 2nd start at Nebraska.
Out of the eye on 3rd and short. They go to the fullback, McNitt, and he finishes forward for Nebraska's first down of the afternoon.
The former tight end moved to fullback because of his ability to run the football and lead block and do a bunch of other things. But they like to sprinkle the ball in here and there, and that's one thing you're going to see from Mike Riley offenses. They're going to shift, they're going to motion, they're going to use different personnel groupings and really try to get you into looks that they feel are favorable to run the football.
From the 16, 1st down and 10. Lee back to throw. Into a tight window. It's caught by Tyjon Lindsey. True freshman, one of the top recruits the Huskers have had in years.
Watch the timing of this play. As Tanner Lee drops back, he's going to hitch, ball's out. And that's exactly what you want from your quarterback, especially in Mike Riley's system. It's a pro-style offense. Anticipation and timing are key.
Bryant back in, running back for his 2nd and 1. Running behind McNitt, trying to get the edge, gets pulled down for a loss, but flags come flying as Justin Hollins got him up high. This will be a Nebraska 1st down.
That's going to be a battle to keep your eye on. Justin Hollins, number 11, versus left tackle, number 68, Nick Gates.
Personal foul, face mask, defense number 11, 15 yards from the previous spot, automatic 1st down.
Let's see Hollins grab the face mask of Bryant, trying to keep that leverage on the outside. Talked about that battle between Hollins and Gates. Gates, the most experienced offensive lineman for Nebraska, really the anchor. Had a chance to talk to their quarterback Tanner Lee and asked him to describe what Nick Gates was kind of like. Said it's a dirty, nasty lineman. Exactly what you think about when you think about an offensive lineman.
And there is one changed update up front for Nebraska. At right tackle, David Neville out with an ankle injury that he suffered last week. So the redshirt freshman Matt Farniak is making his 1st career start.
So far, that really hasn't been an issue. Farniak's been able to hold his own.
Overall, they were not overly pleased with how the offensive line played last week, with a pretty experienced group. From the 40, they fake to Bryant, throw the slant too high, and he had Pierson-El wide open.
It looked like he never really got back into rhythm. That's one thing that Tanner Lee does a really good job of. I always feel like he's under control, in rhythm when he throws the football. That time he rushed it. Gave a little play action fake as he pulled the football out. I think Pierson-El kind of got there sooner than he thought and rushed the throw.
He started 1 for 4. high snap on second down. Blitz is picked up. Gets it to the sideline. Perfectly thrown for a first down. J.D. Spielman into Oregon territory on a gain of 23.
You know you got to be when you play quarterback in Nebraska? Tough, because there's going to be times when you get hit right in the face. And handling the snap, stays poised. He's got pressure, but he knows where his wide receiver is going to be, and he throws it out there to a spot where J.D. Spielman can make a play.
Freshman had a 99-yard kick return on his first career touch last week, in addition to a couple of catches. First time in Oregon territory for Nebraska. Straight up the gut, a hole for Trey Bryant. Sticks his shoulder down and rumbles for a first down inside the 25.
That's when Nebraska's offense becomes so dangerous. When they get the running game going, and that makes the play-action pass game that much more impactful. Those run fakes mean something. In Mike Riley's systems, everything works off of one another. They'll have the same formation, but a number of plays they run from it.
Real simple last week, as you mentioned. Not wanting to put too much on film. 38 rushes, 32 passes. Those balances you're going to find. From the 24, it's a draw. Bryant tries to keep the legs churning. Stopped after a gain of 3. Thomas Graham and Jalen Jelks, 2nd and 7. He juggled it initially and it cost him. Tyjon Lindsey cut down by Thomas Graham.
And it looked like a bit of hesitation from Tanner Lee. I don't know if he misgripped the football and wasn't ready to get it out, or if he thought Lindsey wasn't ready on the outside. Let's take a look at the exchange. Yeah, he really just pulls that football back. I think he believed that Lindsey wasn't ready for it.
And so 3rd and 9. Oregon rushes 4. Lee has time. End zone shot. Pierson-El over the top for the touchdown. Went over Thomas Graham. There is a flag down, but as it stands, a 23-yard touchdown.
Pass interference. Defense number 4. That penalty's declined. Result of the play is a touchdown.
First of the season for Pierson-El, and the Huskers on the board.
Tanner Lee put this ball up that was catchable for Pierson-El. Not necessarily a well-thrown football, but he trusts him enough to go up and make the play. And you can see Thomas Graham never looked back for the football. A lot of contact. Kind of picking on the true freshman down there.
Boy, we've seen a couple really nice catches already in this game. One from Schooler for Oregon, and now this one for Pierson-El as Drew Brown adds the extra point. You posed the question to the start of this drive, what do you got, Tanner Lee? Facing adversity for some of the first times at Nebraska. Drives him down the field for the score. Back in Eugene. Entertaining start to this one as the Big Ten meets the Pac-12, and the Ducks in front 14-7. After a 95-yard touchdown drive capped off by Demorne Pierson-El's excellent touchdown catch.
Tanner Lee really got into a rhythm on that last drive. I believe it was 3 of 4 and started to step up, started to make some big plays in the face of adversity.
And a touchback. So the Ducks will start at the 25. And Nebraska, which was one of the nation's dominant programs for so long, those 5 national titles, although they've not won a conference title since 1999 when they were in the Big 12. Last season got off to that 7-0 start, but then dropped 4 of their final 6 games in Mike Riley's second year. But it seems to have them trending in the right direction again.
9 wins, second in the Big Ten West. Hardest part is obviously the transition for the defense. Hiring defensive coordinator Bob Diaco and switching to a 3-4, and really transition at quarterback. Tommy Armstrong being more of a dual threat. Now Tanner Lee more of a prototypical pocket passer.
Justin Herbert, meanwhile, 5 of 7 with a pair of touchdowns so far. They run the sweep. Charles Nelson pulled down by Eric Lee on a short gain, 2nd down.
These cornerbacks for Nebraska are big. Look at Eric Lee, 6 foot, 200 pounds. Lamar Jackson on the other side, he's 6'3", 210 pounds. There's some Big Ten cornerbacks right there.
Tyrell Crosby, left tackle for Oregon, having to come out for a play. His helmet came off, and it wasn't the result of a penalty, so he comes out. Brady Aiello, 66 in white, comes in.
Crosby, NFL prospect. A lot was made of Royce Freeman when he decided to come back this year. Crosby as well. I think he felt like he had some unfinished business, was banged up last season, but Mario Cristobal, their offensive line coach, he talked about, hey, he could have started for us at Alabama. It feels like he's that talented of a player.
And when he was out, it was Aiello that came in as the starter, so an experienced guy in there at tackle. On 2nd and 9. Herbert quickly into the short side of the field. This is the sophomore Dylan Mitchell, who's pulled out of bounds after a gain of 5. Lee with another tackle, and it's 3rd and short.
A very young wide receiver group for Oregon. Coming into the game, we were looking at that stat. Charles Nelson was the only receiver that had more than 4 receptions.
On 3rd down and 3, Huskers bring in 5, picked up, down the seam, a strike for a 1st down and more to Charles Nelson. 41-yard bullseye from Justin Herbert.
It starts off with a protection. Herbert's got a clean pocket. He sets his feet, and he delivers an absolute strike to possibly the fastest guy on the field in Charles Nelson.
So fresh set of downs at the 25. Freeman takes the fake. Herbert all day to throw. A flag down, likely going to be a holding as Freeman crunches a defender at the 10.
It's going to be on number 76, Jake Pisarcik.
Holding. Offense number 76. 10 yards from the previous spot. Repeat, 1st down.
You know, it's a tough position. You know, he's doing all he can to protect his quarterback as Herbert extended the play. And you'll see as Herbert moves to his right, felt like he was hanging on.
It's the only new starter up front for Oregon. Now, they had 4 freshman starters last year on the offensive line, the only team in the country where that was the case. And so while they're still not an old group, pretty experienced and some continuity. First down and a mile. And they get a few back. Mitchell on a gain of 3. 2nd and 17.
Look at the career starts for this group, and Pisarcik, he hasn't started a ton of games coming into the season, only 3, but you know, he's played in a lot of games. That's why, if you're an Oregon fan, you should have a lot of optimism with this offensive group.
In a hole here on 2nd and 17. He zips one just shy of the marker. It's caught by Mitchell again. His 4th reception already makes it 3rd down and 2.
Keep throwing the screen, but keep an eye on number 13. Does he step out of bounds? Looks like he was able to keep his feet in. Tough to see from that angle.
Quickly back on the ball and straight downhill. Freeman has a 1st down into the arms of Marcus Newby.
And they make a big play and they come right back, get lined up, and go into hyperspeed. It's incredibly difficult for a defense, especially one like Nebraska, where you're trying to implement a new scheme to get lined up.
Here's Nelson. Charles Nelson is inside the 5 and stopped by Jackson. Johnny Johnson III delivered a nice block on the edge. 2nd down and goal. Freeman, touchdown, Oregon.
And it just wears on you, the pace. Time after time, they keep pounding away, running the football, the quick screens to the outside, the big plays. Eventually, you just get worn down by the time you get into the red zone. To the left side of the offensive line, doubling up to the second level, helping to create a hole for Royce Freeman. 9 rushing touchdowns last week versus Southern Utah. Kind of get called more of a finesse style team, but they can run the rock.
Yeah, that may be changing, that whole finesse thing. I don't think that's what Willie Taggart wants to be looked at as. Those 9 rushing touchdowns and pounded home their first rushing touchdown of the day on the final play of the first quarter. Oregon has a 21-7 lead. On to the second in Eugene. Back on Fox College Football, presented by Volkswagen, and we are so glad that you're with us for this one on a gorgeous day in Oregon. The Ducks have a 21-7 lead on Nebraska, getting ready to open quarter number 2. J.D. Spielman will take an most recent touchdown coming from Royce Freeman, who one heck of a career here. More than 1,300 yards when he was Pac-12 Offensive Freshman of the Year. And a huge sophomore season, broke the single-season Oregon record, dealing with injuries last year, a knee that he suffered against Nebraska. Enough numbers that for a lot of guys would be really good, but for him, not close to what he's come to expect.
And you can see he's number 4 in the Pac-12 career rankings for touchdowns. He's most likely going to surpass everyone this season, at least the way Oregon's been running the football. And maybe when you look at the Pac-12 rushing yards, he could probably get to that number 2 spot, passing Michael James, former great Oregon Duck.
Or the school record, a little more than 5,000. On first down, Trey Bryant has a big hole, and he's out to midfield. 25 yards on the first play of the drive for Nebraska.
This is the response that you'd like to see from your offense. One of the staples of Mike Riley's systems is pulling their offensive tackles and guards to get angles on the outside. And Trey Bryant does a tremendous job of reading his blocks to make the big plays downfield.
From midfield, right back to Bryant. He's got another hole. This one off the right side. Stays on his feet to the 40. Close to another first down. For a guy that was part of a 3-way battle during camp for carries with Will Bonham, with Ozigbo, and they were kind of thinking they'd go into the year sharing time, but in the days leading up to the opener, Mike Riley said, you know what, let's ride Trey Bryant. He's our most well-rounded guy. They've had some of their best seasons leading this offense, the Riley staff has, when they've had a featured back. And 192 yards later in the opener, they feel pretty good about that decision. Here he takes the fake. Lee with a deep drop. Sideline throw. On the money for a first down to Tyler Hoppus. First down and goal on a gain of 31.
They love to throw to their tight ends off the play action pass. Hoppus is the type that can really stretch the field vertically. He can really do everything they ask him to do in this system, but these big paws. His hands on the football for the big play. You gotta love the way Tanner Lee's responded. Really showing a lot of poise after throwing an interception on the first throw, coming back and dropping some dimes.
On first down and goal, here comes Bryant off the left side, spinning his way inside the 2, continuing to fight forward. That's a Nebraska touchdown.
This is just all effort and determination. Not only of Trey Bryant, but really their entire offensive line. Watch the line of scrimmage move. It starts with the tight ends on the outside being able to get up to the second level, but as Bryant climbs up, his teammates are there to help push him into the end zone, and that is legal. You cannot pull a ball carrier in, but you can push them from behind. That used to be different in the past, but that's the rule now.
And so another good response by Nebraska. 75 yards in the blink of an eye. They get down there with a run. A play action pass puts them inside the 5, and they finish it off with a Bryant touchdown. This is nothing new, but Nebraska has traveled well. We're talking about how thunderous it was to start the game. Part of that was Nebraska's entrance. This is a short kick taken to the 10 by Kenai Benoit. And he's pulled out at the 22-yard line. What do you think? It seats 54,000. How many Nebraska fans do you think are in here?
Conservatively, let's say 15,000. I mean, there is a sea of red in some parts. We saw quite a bit of Nebraska fans walking into the game, tailgating beforehand. So it's quite the scene here in Autzen.
There is a kind of a famous takeover of your old home stadium from the Nebraska fans at Notre Dame Stadium years back, about 50-50.
The Oregon faithful showed up. Hasn't been the case here today.
Tony Brooks-James in the game of running back as this drive starts at the 22. A boot for Herbert. He's completed 7 in a row. This one on the move for a first down to Cam McCormick.
So much poise for a true sophomore. You see him come off the fake. He goes through his progression. Nothing in the flat, nothing in the comeback. Finds McCormick coming across.
For his first career reception from the 44 now. It's James probing for room. Eric Lee sticks his nose in there, but he stays on his feet, powers his way for 8. Such a deep running back group.
And they all have their different skill sets. You know, Tony Brooks-James has elite speed. I mean, you're talking about Olympic level speed at the running back position. Smaller back, but can do a bunch of things.
He's got it again. He's got a first down. Been part of the rotation all 3 seasons, and last year really was his breakout year, taking advantage of Royce Freeman being banged up. Ran for more than 700 yards. From the 44, they pump short. Herbert looking long. Into traffic and incomplete. Coverage from Joshua Kalu on Ryan Bay, the tight end. And it's 2nd and 10.
Joshua Kalu, number 46, is going to end up covering Breland downfield. Fans here felt like there's a bit too much contact. I actually think it's just a good play. A little bump with the body, but both trying to make a play on the football. Excuse me, that's Ryan Bay. But both trying to make a play on the football. Kalu, a former cornerback, now playing safety in a little bit different position for him where he can excel.
Back to the ground and Brooks-James. And he's hit at the line of scrimmage. Marcus Newby comes up with a tackle and makes it 3rd down and long.
Herbert's executed extremely well today on 3rd down. A couple of touchdown passes earlier in the game, one to Schooler, one to Nelson.
That was part of the problem for Nebraska's defense last week against Arkansas State, getting off of the field on 3rd down. And it's been a problem today. Oregon is 4 for 5. On 3rd and 9, a twist up front is picked up, giving Herbert time to drill an incompletion with a coverage from Lee.
Nebraska's playing 2-man, meaning man-to-man underneath with 2 deep safeties you can see at the top of the screen. Really nowhere to throw this football. Eric Lee, a good job keeping his leverage, staying to the inside and getting a hand on it. People may be upset that they're allowing him to play a little bit. It's kind of physical out there, but it really is on both sides. At some point, Justin Herbert needs to realize that there's no one accountable for him as the quarterback. He can take off and run and be able to pick up first downs that way if no one's open downfield.
Jim take off once today, is a good runner, long strides. Adam Stack had a good punt his first time, pinning him down at the 5. This one's over Pierson-El's head and into the end zone. Nebraska's defense comes up with a stop on a nice play from the first-year starter at corner, Eric Lee. The offense with a chance to tie this game when you come back. Back in Eugene, one of the more beautiful parts of the country. Tanner Lee is in his first road game as the Huskers starter. He was intercepted on his first pass, but he and the offense have settled in.
He really had no fault of his own. Threw it up, tried to give his wide receiver a chance. The ball gets tipped and ends up being intercepted. And that's kind of the risk that you run when you try to take shots downfield. This is what they love about him. His poise, his confidence. He's got previous starting experience. Now it's just settling into a new system with new personnel.
This drive starts at the 20. He fakes it, sets up in the pocket, and out of a collapsing pocket throws incomplete. And we check in with Bruce.
Joe, I first saw Tanner Lee when he was a freshman at Tulane. He was down training for a week in San Diego with a bunch of bigger name quarterbacks, Connor Cook, Bryce Petty, and Johnny Manziel. No, I'd never heard of him. He actually threw it better than those guys did. About a year later, he went to the Manning Passing Academy. He blew up. There was a coaching change at Tulane. He decided to transfer. And when I talked to him before the game, he said, you know what, that week did a lot for my confidence. He looked at this stadium, he goes, this is what I had in mind when I came here.
Hands it off to Trey Bryant, who's pulled down after a short gain, and it'll be third down and 8. Lee chose Nebraska over LSU, and man, careful what you wish for.
Well, and part of that decision, too, was not just about playing in this sort of environment, but also the offense, the system. And this is a pro-style system. It fits to exactly what not only Mike Riley wants to do, but what Tanner Lee excels at. We talked about his anticipation we've seen earlier in the game. It's going to come in handy now on third down.
And he replaced Tommy Armstrong, who was a heck of a player, 4-year starter, but a different kind of player that didn't fit as well in Riley's system. On third down, Oregon rushes only 4, still able to get pressure. Got rid of it too high, fourth down. Pierson-El was the intended receiver. Jalen Jelks, the man that applied the pressure.
Yeah, it was Jelks, and Hollins was in there as well. They typically play a defensive end spot in a 3-4, but they end up moving down inside sometimes, especially with Jelks. He'll play defensive tackle where he can utilize his speed up against some of the centers and guards that aren't accustomed to really having to go up against the guy with his sort of quickness.
Laybourne's first punt was a short one. And there is a flag down.
Illegal substitution. 12 players in formation on the defense. 5-yard penalty. Still fourth down.
So that'll make it fourth down and about 3 instead.
Really just adding yards onto the punt. Not in this territory when you contemplate maybe, going forward on fourth down. But these are some of the kinks that you're still trying to work out the first couple games of the season.
So now Lightbourne to punt it. Good hang time on this one. Nelson has no choice but to call the fair catch on a 46-yarder from Lightbourne. Time now for the winning duos, sponsored by Volkswagen. Why settle for an SUV when you can have an SUVW? And so far today, Herbert has been sharp, handing it off to Royce Freeman, who has been good as well.
It's really been a compliment of both. Herbert, his efficiency and his accuracy through the air, but Freeman allowing him to have the opportunity to be able to make big plays off of the play action pass. Talked about it earlier. When you run the football effectively, those run fakes are meaningful. It sucks up the linebackers, sucks up the safeties at the second level, and allows for bigger throwing windows in the back end.
The Oregon offense averaging more than 8 yards per play. They start the drive from the 27 with a Royce Freeman run into the arms of Carlos Davis. Sophomore defensive lineman from Blue Springs, Missouri, that they think has a ton of upside.
He's got a ton of explosiveness. I mean, he's a former discus thrower. His size, 6'2", 295 pounds. He moves very well.
Oregon quickly on the ball for his second down and 8. Herbert all day to throw. Takes a shot. It is caught by Johnny Johnson, and then it comes out. They say it's a catch. Johnny Johnson, the third, lays out for a 56-yard highlight.
Let's see if he gets his hands underneath the football and is able to control it as he brings it into his body. Looks like it doesn't come out till after he hits the ground, and as long as he maintains control and possession, which he does right there, this should be upheld if it is reviewed.
Looks like Lamar Jackson
is under further review.
tugs it out after He controls it through that first roll.
What about that story Willie Taggart told us yesterday about Johnny Johnson, excuse me. He said he couldn't catch a cold in a blizzard. At some point in training camp, he felt bad for him, and then all of a sudden, a light switched, and he was catching everything, and he was making plays, and he was really excited to see what he'd be able to do versus Nebraska today.
True freshman from Chandler, Arizona. And John O'Neill, the referee, on the phones with the replay booth. Our rules expert back in Los Angeles is Mike Pereira. Mike, good to have you today. What do you see on this one?
Always good to be with you guys. I see it kind of the way Brady saw it. He survived the ground. He's going to the ground, maintain control when he hits the ground, and you can see when he rolls over, he still has the control. Then it's ripped away. So the fact that the ball didn't come out when he hit the ground, to me, this is left as a completed catch and down.
And it has to be indisputable video evidence to overturn it, right, Mike? And I don't see anything that would be the case here.
No, I actually was surprised when I saw it live. It felt like, to me, it might be incomplete until you see the replay. And again, I like the term survival. He'd survived the contact with the ground, and it didn't come loose until after it was ripped out.
On the field of a completed catch is confirmed.
Yeah, and you're right, Mike. Not only did it stand, it was confirmed.
This is something that, as many yards as Nebraska gave up in the pass game last week versus Arkansas State, we didn't see that many big plays. There was a 29-yarder that really came off of a hitch route with a missed tackle. We're seeing a lot more big plays really against both defenses today.
And that was the plan for Nebraska. I mean, I know that the efficiency numbers for Justice Hansen from Arkansas State were off the charts, 46 of 68, more than 400, but the plan was to keep them in front. Bottom line, it worked, and that they won 43-36. From the 20 with a first down. Herbert straight ahead, clipped down by Khalil Davis, who is Carlos Davis's twin brother.
Some extracurriculars going on right there. It looked like someone may have shoved Justin Herbert back down to the ground.
And a flag comes out now. It was very late.
Would have been number 94, Khalil Davis.
After the play was over, unsportsmanlike conduct. Head coach, Oregon. Half the distance to the goal, automatic first down. That is the first unsportsmanlike conduct foul on the head coach.
Wow, so it's not on Davis, it's on Willie Taggart.
Let's take another look at this last run. This is where they really run that stretch zone read. Herbert keeps it, goes up the middle. Looks like Davis kind of shoves him down and kind of kicks him. I don't know if that was inadvertent. Maybe make the case that it wasn't, but either way, Willie Taggart ends up being the person that's penalized. And that's really the first time we've seen this penalty called that I can recall this year in the first 2 weeks of college football. That's something new. Trying to make sure they regulate these coaches on the sidelines, not allow them to come onto the field and be able to get after the refs, I think, the way they have in the past.
That moves them all the way back to the 34. They try to get some of it back with Nelson. You're right, it's an emphasis. Really, they're just trying to enforce what is already there, which is you can't go past the 25. You're not supposed to be able to come off the thick white line. And really trying to focus on enforcing that this year.
He's just trying to protect his quarterback. He felt like that was unjust.
Third down and long. Herbert scans and throws off of the hands and caught for a first down. Oregon is living right now. Johnny Johnson the third for a first down.
Just how you draw it up, right? There's Breland in the slot. He's going to sit down on the hitch route, and he really volleyball sets it to Johnson for the conversion and first down.
Officials timeout for an injured player.
Good volleyball reference with a couple good volleyball schools here.
Yeah, they both have great programs as we take a look at Joshua Kalu. As fast as Oregon plays, it really stresses your defense, in particular those secondary players that are constantly in coverage, running around, trying to get lined up. Cramping becomes an issue. Pretty hot down there on the field before the game. We had to do a Facebook Live deal and wore my jacket. That was probably a terrible decision.
It's a rookie move, yeah. Yes. I expected more. Kalu helped to his feet.
You hope he's going to be all right because he is arguably their best player on defense. When you talk to head coach Mike Riley or even defense coordinator Bob Diaco, he talks about his versatility and why they moved him to the safety position, because he's got the ability to still cover like a corner, like he's done in the past, but he's so good blitzing and he's so good tackling in the run game that they felt like that was a better position for their team to be there.
They're already young. They're already thin in the secondary. Their top corner, Chris Jones, down with a knee injury this summer. So they've got 2 first-year starters at corner. When Jones goes down with the injury, Kalu makes them move to safety like you're talking about. A lot of youth out there now.
And Kalu from Houston, Texas, obviously one of the players maybe affected a little bit by Hurricane Harvey. It seemed to be that his family and folks were okay from all indications from their coaching staff before the game.
Empty set on first down and goal. Herbert goes out the back door, and he's hemmed in on a short gain. Well done by Dedrick Young to stay home. Second down.
Dedrick Young's having himself a game. Not for Young, that might have been 6 points for Oregon. This is that area of the field where the quarterback running game really comes into play in Willie Taggart's system. Dedrick Young wasn't buying the fake.
So on second and goal, here's Freeman, short side of the field. Royce Freeman to the pylon, inside the 1. It's third down.
This is that turbo speed as far as the pace of play they like to play with. They put 3 wide receivers close to the sideline, so it helps really clear up the box count for the Oregon offensive line.
On third and goal, it's Freeman hurtling into the end zone for his second touchdown of the day.
And this duck can fly. Watch the elevation of Royce Freeman as he leaps up over everyone. See at the end, looks like Dedrick Young was trying to get in there on the tackle. He stands at 6'1". Flew over him.
We were getting ready for the game this week. Did you sit there by yourself and say, I hope somebody on Oregon jumps for a touchdown so I can say that duck can fly?
That just came to me in the moment.
That's really good.
I don't know where the inspiration came from.
Snyder's extra point is there, and Oregon has a 2-score lead again. Royce Freeman, second rushing touchdown of the day. This has been a fun one in Eugene so far. Rob, always looking forward to seeing you. They're swag surfing on the Oregon sideline, huh?
They brought that from a boy from South Florida. About bringing that Gulf Coast offense to the West Coast. Brought some of that excitement and enthusiasm Willie Taggart talked about, dropping some quotes on us yesterday.
J.D. Spielman launches that one, sail into the end zone. Time for a game break, and a swag surfer that I know is Greg Wolf back in studio.
Joe, thanks. 98th meeting between Pitt and Penn State. 4th-ranked Nittany Lions trying to avenge last season's loss to the Panthers. Trace McSorley to Heisman hopeful Saquon Barkley. Had 5 scores in that loss last year to Pitt. This one goes for 46. Penn State leads at 21-3 third quarter. Joe, Brady, back to you.
All right, Greg, and we're talking about Willie Taggart trying to inject some life into the program, and that's one example of it. But this is not his first program that he's taken over and tried to get turned around. After 4-8 year last year, he said it all started off of the field, though, trying to develop the chemistry with the guys. Nebraska drive begins with a short run for Trey Bryant. And he started it at Western Kentucky. The year before he was there 0-12, and by the time he left, back-to-back 7 in 5 seasons. Similar turnaround at USF. They were 10-2 in his final year there.
He talked about a lot of the things he tries to do off the field with the players, and one in particular was make them all eat together. 3 times a week at breakfast, they're all sitting down eating with one another, trying to get to know their teammate. And through that process, he hopes that he cares more and they play harder for one another because they know their teammate better.
Yeah, 3 team dinners a week, breakfast each day of the week. Brought in a ping pong table, said they loved that. Tyjon Lindsey with a gain of 3 or 4. And it'll be third down as Tyree Robinson makes the stop for Oregon.
This is where the pressure really gets put on you as a quarterback. When you kind of get in that run-pass mode. Not only do you become a little bit predictable, but it's kind of tough to get into a rhythm. You have to hand the football off in the first 2 plays, and now the pressure's on you to convert on third down.
Against the Ducks and against the noise. 6 men at the line of scrimmage, 5 of them rush. Lee gets it outside. It's juggled and caught, but they spot it shy of the first down. Tyjon Lindsey, if he catches it cleanly, is going to have enough.
This is what happens when you have a true freshman. They've got to go at least a yard past the sticks. He settles right about on the sticks and really was surprised by that football. We talked about the timing and anticipation of Tanner Lee. Look at the job that he does to get the ball out before Lindsey even turns around. That's NFL-style quarterback play. Look at this.
They're going to review the spot, but yeah, Mike Riley, even before they get a review, has the offense out there.
28-14 with so much time left in the game. I don't know. Maybe play the field position battle, but take a couple more looks at the spot. Let's see, Lindsey maybe close to yard pass, but because he bobbles it and was surprised by it, ends up taking him back past the sticks. I don't know that they thought he had possession of the football until right there where his knee goes down.
You don't think he has it right after the first juggle?
Well, the hard part is I think after he juggles it and he moves forward, he moves back past that 35-yard line.
See, I think he has it there,
right there,
which is pretty much right on the 35, but replay officials, rarely do you see them change the spot by a few inches.
There's got to be a definitive look at it, and unfortunately, unless you're looking right down that 35-yard line, it may be tough because of the ruling on the field to overturn it.
I know they've got it spotted about a foot
After
short.
further review, the ruling on the previous play stands.
Yeah.
4th down.
Just not enough there to warrant an inch or two. Let's see if the offense stays out there, and Mike Riley is going to go on 4th and 1.
This is that step that you want to see out of your offense. Every year, you got to find a new identity. You're putting your confidence and your trust and faith. The big boys up front on your offensive line be able to surge forward and get the first down.
Big play late in this first half. 4th down and inches. Lee to sneak it, and he's got a first down. But there's a flag down in the Nebraska backfield. It's on the Huskers.
Ball start. Offense number 15. 5-yard penalty. Still 4th down.
On the senior, Pierson-El.
And that's disappointing on many levels, but in particular because as a wide receiver, you should be just looking at the football. There's no chance being split out as far as he was that he's going to be able to hear the cadence.
And, I mean, it's a quarterback sneak. Where are you going?
Exactly. You don't need to get a jump on it or anything. You can see him right here at the bottom of your screen. And it looks like he actually just wasn't set. It wasn't that he necessarily jumped, but he wasn't quite set after they shifted.
Lightborn. Another good punt after a rough first one. Charles Nelson lost it. Back on top of it at the 20, at the 31. Wake up and start your day with First Things First. Weekday mornings on FS1. Chris Carter, Nick Wright, Jenna Wolf for the best morning sports show on television. First Things First, 6:30 a.m. Eastern on FS1. Couple good guys there, Chris Carter and Nick Wright. Fun to listen to.
Yeah, I got to see my guy CC, former Ohio State Buckeye. We're heading out there next week.
Yeah, the Army game will be on Fox. 4:37 left to go in this first half. The Ducks take over at the 30. They begin the drive with a quick throw to Charles Nelson. A block sprung him for 6. Lamar Jackson made the tackle.
It was a great job by number 13, Dylan Mitchell, helping to allow for the 6-7 yard game. Doesn't seem like much, not a big play, but it wears on you as the defensive secondary.
Same thing other way, and a first down.
They throw so many of these and they play at such a fast pace. This is like an extended portion of the running game.
Johnny Johnson the third on that one.
Johnny Johnson on the reception.
And it's not as if they need an extension of the running game. 9 rushing touchdowns last week. A fake to Freeman. Herbert over the middle, hits Nelson in stride. The speedster around the corner for a first down to the 26 and a gain of 29.
Well, Nelson can absolutely fly, and he doesn't break stride to catch this one. Ball's a little bit behind, but Herbert finds him in the zone coverage over the middle of the defense. That soft spot of the split safety zone coverage by Nebraska is where Oregon right now is finding a lot of their big plays.
Freeman takes the fake. Here's Brendan Schooler, had the first touchdown today. Gets stopped by Luke Gifford here.
And Luke Gifford's got to help out on the outside because it's Jacob Breland, their tight end, out there working on Eric Lee. It's not any fun if you're a cornerback having to have a big tight end block you.
Yeah, it's 6'5", 240, working on 6 foot 195. Freeman's first carry of the drive inside the 10. First and goal for the Ducks.
We talked about it before the game. What makes Royce Freeman so special is he can do a bunch of different things, but he's just tough to bring down. His lower half is so thick. He's so powerful and so strong. He's tough to bring down on a one-on-one tackle.
Brendan Schooler, blocked from Breland. And Williams up to make the tackle. The juggle from Schooler cost him any opportunity to get forward.
They keep throwing these screens. They keep throwing these screens. It ends up kind of lulling you to sleep. And then all of a sudden they fake it and they throw a vertical route. Something to keep your eye on in this portion of the field.
Inside of the 3-minute mark. Boy, right now, the false start on the 4th down sneak seems huge. Kadai Benoit, left side, touchdown. Oregon takes advantage of that costly penalty. Promptly marching down the field to open up a 3-score lead.
Look at the seam created on the left side. Big number 73, Tyrell Crosby. Basically posts up Luke Gifford. Provides the seam for Benoit for the touchdown.
And so instead of Nebraska having the ball still around midfield with that drive continuing on the quarterback sneak, the penalty happens. And 7 plays, a minute 57 later, the Ducks have gone 71 yards to take their largest lead of the afternoon. Oregon in front in the first big test of the Willie Taggart era. 35 in the first half against Nebraska. That guy wins the day for wearing gloves to the game. 5 touchdowns in this first half for the Ducks on 7 possessions. And you know, they scored 77 last week, but the caveat was that it came against an FCS opponent. This is kind of affirmation for what Willie Taggart's doing.
Yeah, I think it is to some degree. And look, this Nebraska defense is still settling into a new system. It's going to take some time. And even defensive coordinator Jim Leavitt talked about that for Oregon.
A big drive coming here for Nebraska with 2:40 to go in the half. When we do get to half, robbing the guys with plenty for you. On a busy day of college football, Lamar Jackson, another big day for Louisville. Iowa and Iowa State into overtime, and the Hawkeyes come back to win that game. And this is the first of our 2 games on Fox today. Stanford and USC to follow us.
If you're Tanner Lee right now, this is that opportunity to really get into a rhythm. It's going to be a 2-minute drive. It's going to be on you to lead your team down the field and try to find a way to get momentum before halftime.
6 of 11 so far. Starts with a fake to Bryant. Blitz gets home. He's ripped down by Kaulana Apelu. Or make that Troy Dye coming up with a sack.
Well, they call it green dogging. Watch number 35, Troy Dye. As soon as Trey Bryant ends up coming with the fake, he now then keys him to blitz. Once they see a running back stand for the pass protection, that's his responsibility in coverage. He then keys and adds to the pass rush.
So they lose 10 and 2nd down and 20. Lee double clutches, goes underneath. They get 5, but that's all as Stanley Morgan makes the reception. 3rd and 15.
If you're Oregon, you got to think about taking a time out here, preserving yourself some time.
3 left, and they will use one here. So an impressive start to this one for Oregon. Really an impressive start to this season when you go back to last week where they scored the 77 points. Now with a 3-touchdown lead and a chance to get it back before halftime.
Yeah, I think their defense has done a pretty admirable job. Big step from week 1 to week 2. And now you're looking at an offense that just looks like a well-oiled machine. You thought maybe there's this period of transition with Willie Taggart coming in with a new system, but not the case. So far, Justin Herbert has been incredibly efficient.
So the sack set him behind the chains. 3rd down and 15. Lee over the middle. It is intercepted. Thomas Graham having a day. The true freshman with a pick. And Oregon has a chance to break this thing open before halftime.
This is the risk that you take when you throw the football before your wide receiver comes out of his break. Look at number 8, Stanley Morgan. This ball is coming. Thomas Graham sees it. Morgan doesn't. He's a little bit behind him. I always tell you, anytime you run those deep curl routes, you have to find your quarterback and come back to a line on him because that's the angle at which he's throwing the football. Clearly, Stanley Morgan didn't have time coming out of that route to find where Tanner Lee was. Ball was already out, too far to the outside, and the Ducks now in a position to score before half.
And Lee now 7 of 13 and has been intercepted twice. There's a flag down.
False start. Offense number 82. 5-yard penalty. Still 1st down.
I was just about to say, it seemed like a little bit of a jump there off the football.
We'll reset the clock to 1:52. First down and 15. 8 in coverage. Punt short. Scans the field. Underneath, Brooks James gets belted by Gifford.
Herbert just waited too long to finally find Brooks James as his outlet. Obviously trying to stretch the field vertically. Kept his eyes downfield. Great protection by the Oregon Ducks offensive line, but needed to find his back quicker. Those are things that come along when you're a true sophomore and you're still maturing and progressing as a quarterback. Will be the steps that we'll see from him by the end of the season.
Here's Brooks James for the 32. The stop from Aaron Williams. Now, when a guy takes over as early as Justin Herbert did midway through his true freshman season, it's easy to forget that he's still a really young guy.
Yeah. The first true freshman to start since 1983, Chris Miller here at Oregon. So tough stage 2, by the way. I had him go up against the Huskies last year.
On 3rd down, a deep drop. Lets the route develop. It is intercepted, but a flag down. Lamar Jackson picks it off, but will get called for pass interference.
Yeah, he almost tackled him. That's actually how he got into position to intercept the football. It's like he grabbed number 13, Dylan Mitchell, by the waist and really pulled himself through to get his hands on the ball.
Pass interference. Defense number 21. After distance to the goal, automatic 1st down.
So an easy call.
15 yards from the previous spot.
Convert
1st down.
the 3rd down. You know, Herbert coming into last year, he was kind of an underdog to even win the backup role. Dakota Prukop is the starter. He didn't come until the fall, finishing up his spring in Sheldon here in Eugene, but won the backup job. And then when Prukop struggled out of the gate, he took over.
And even this offseason, though, he was back into a quarterback competition. It was surprising to him, but Willie Taggart wanted him to earn it, and he did.
20 of 24 to begin. Steps into a confident strike for a touchdown. Make it 21-25 and give Dylan Mitchell his first career score.
And that is exactly how you capitalize off of a turnover. That's twice now today. 14 points for the Oregon Ducks, capitalizing off of turnovers. Really executing at a high level in those sudden change situations.
touchdowns for the Oregon offense in less than 7 minutes, and it's 42-14. They're more than halfway to the 77 they got against Southern Utah.
Watch Herbert absolutely rip this football. He almost stepped into it like he was a pitcher coming off the mound that he used to be a baseball player back in high school. Look at him just throw his whole lower half and all that torque. I mean, that thing was humming.
Yeah, his baseball commitments were what kept him from coming for spring ball. Graduated early to join the program. Mid-90s fastball, they say, when he was a baseball player. And
that looked like it was about in the 60s. And for a quarterback and throwing a football like that, that's incredibly impressive. Really just exploiting the zone coverage of Nebraska right now, having their way. And it also starts with the fact that they've been able to run the football. They're balanced. Their offensive line's giving them time. Now everyone's swag surfing.
Why not? 21 points in their last 11 offensive snaps. Out of the back of the end zone and down to Bruce.
Joe, we're watching this guy, and he's Justin Herbert is lighting it up. Here's the crazy thing. The only other offer he had out of high school was Hawaii. He's a small school kid from this area. And when I talked to the staff here, they said, you know what? He just wasn't a camps guy. He didn't go to a lot of things. People didn't see him. But you look at him, I mean, he just looks really, really impressive here today.
There's an offsides and the kickoff there, Bruce.
We've heard that with a number of quarterbacks. Some guys are into the camp trails. They go to different camps. Look at Tanner Lee and how he really came onto the map. Going to the Manning Passing Academy. Wasn't the case for Justin Herbert. Jake Browning was the same way at Washington. The thing that's most impressive is really just how he's continued to grow and mature, and his ability to really take those shots downfield but not turn over the football. Very calculated when he takes those risks.
It's led Oregon to 7 touchdowns on 9 drives today. Lee has his screen pass knocked down by Jonah Moy.
One of the things we talked to defensive coordinator Jim Levitt about was they wanted to get guys with a little bit more length off of the edge when they rush the passer. Jonah Moy is 6'4", 240 pounds. See him, Justin Hollins, 6'5". They have long arms. If they can't get to the quarterback, they do a good job of getting their arms up to bat down passes.
They got a few of those guys that were kind of tweeners in the 4-3 that now seem to be really good fits as outside backers in Jim Levitt's 3-4. With 34 seconds left, all 3 timeouts. Lee throws underneath. Hop is immediately cut down by Amadi, and it's 3rd down. Choosing not to use one of those timeouts, winding inside of 20 seconds. And if you're not going to use the timeout, then why even run a play here? Pierson-El with a catch, and now they've got a punt.
Well, the only thing you could try to do is obviously try to waste enough time here to run time off the clock, but you've got to do it in a legal way. You've seen some teams have issues with that. Last season, Oklahoma State's the first one that comes to mind versus Central Michigan. And to be honest with you, 7 seconds, that's too much time. Maybe 5 or 6 seconds, but 7 seconds is just too long. So now they've got a punt.
And that brings this first half to a close. 7 touchdowns on 9 possessions for the Ducks. A critical penalty on Nebraska late in the quarter allows Oregon to pile on. Let's go to Rob Stone and the guys in LA for the State Farm halftime show. More than 400 yards of offense for Oregon as they scored several touchdowns in the final few minutes to take this 42-14 lead behind Justin Herbert, who was, say, 21-25, more than 300 in the first half.
Yeah, only 4 incompletions. He's been incredibly efficient, and he's really utilized those one-on-one matchups that we'll take a look at here in a little bit, but he's really coming into his own. And you talk a lot about the quarterbacks in the Pac-12. I think you got to start thinking about putting Justin Herbert with the Josh Rosens, the Sam Darnolds, the Jake Brownings as well. I mean, he's playing at that high of a level right now.
Looks so confident.
I think that, and the fact that really he's been able to provide some help. And the running game's been there for him. Protection's been there for him. His first touchdown to score, he really went up and made a play for his quarterback.
Nebraska will have it to begin this second half. And Spielman takes a knee. Take us inside what he was doing so well in that first half.
Just executing at a high level and really exploiting the one-on-one matchups to start off the game. And unfortunately puts defensive coordinator Bob Diaco in a tough spot. So he plays a little softer coverage, cover two. Well, then he starts exploiting the holes in that zone coverage down the middle of the field. You get down to the red zone. Pinpoint accuracy, on time, on the money, only allowing his wide receivers to be able to make plays on the football.
And Nebraska, if they have any chance in this game, critical drive here to open the second half. They start with a handoff to Trey Bryant, and he's met in the hole after a short gain by Matrell McGraw. We go down to Bruce Feldman.
Joe, Willie Taggart was obviously pretty happy with what he saw. He said, we are got to keep going, faster, faster. Don't lighten up, tighten up. As for Mike Riley, he was kind of cringing. He said, we got to give our DBs some help with the play-action passing game. This looks like the Ducks of old.
Kind of does. Didn't take long for Willie Taggart to restore that. Second down and 8. Off play action. Lee has a wide open Pierson-El. And DeMornay Pierson-El with a big play into Ducks territory of 34 yards.
And they faked the bubble screen, really pulled the defense up, and that allowed DeMornay Pierson-El to really break open the open field. If the ball wasn't a little bit behind him, he might have been able to split the defense for a touchdown. He's got that sort of speed. But the big play that the Nebraska offense was really looking forward to, try to bring back some momentum to their sideline.
So into Oregon territory on the opening drive of the second half. On first down, a fake to Bryant. Only 2 men in the pattern to choose from. He throws high for Pierson-El. Coverage from Thomas Graham. Had a heck of a first half at his corner spot for the Ducks.
Really physical on the outside. Something we didn't see quite as much last week from the Oregon secondary. A little more softer coverage at times, but really challenged the Nebraska wide receivers.
Another Pierson-El limped off there. In front of this 2nd and 10. Lee floats it. Stanley Morgan. Incomplete. Graham again in coverage. 3rd down.
And Morgan's got a size advantage over Thomas Graham, who's a true freshman, stands at 5'10", 189 pounds. Tanner Lee's got to get this ball to the outside. Now his wide receiver use that big body to fade to it, or at least put a little more on it so he can high point the football.
Nebraska not very good on 3rd down in the first half, 2 for 7. Opening drive of the second half, a 3rd and 10 from the Oregon 40. Lee goes short side. It's incomplete.
And that wasn't going to be enough anyway. That route was at least a yard short of the sticks. Looks like Nebraska's going to go for it here on 4th down.
Back-to-back throws to Stanley Morgan, their top receiver coming in. Back-to-back incompletions, and you're right. They're going for it on 4th and 10. Oregon bringing heat. Again, it's short of the marker, but Morgan able to fight his way for a 1st down and more. Continues to drag defenders inside the 20. There were a couple of moments there where you held your breath if you're Nebraska, but he does get a 1st.
Well, and that's why they went right back to this same exact play, same exact route. This time just a little bit deeper, but again, because the ball was thrown back downhill on its stem, he had to go back to get the football. What an effort to stay up. To get the extra yards to get the 1st down.
On a drive where the Huskers have to have it.
You could make the case that maybe a little bit desperate Still so much time left in this game to go for it on 4th down, but it worked.
A first down pass play, lead to the end zone. It's caught for a touchdown. Stanley Morgan from 18 yards. And the Huskers get the score they were looking for to open the second half.
It was really all by design. Watch the tight end. Big number 88, Tyler Hoppus. See how he sits? The defense jumps up on him. That allows more room back in behind where Stanley Morgan can go up and high point the football over Amadi. Again, the size advantage, 6'1" versus 5'9". Morgan really dominated that last possession.
Not just 6'1", but strong, wide, and tough. It's his first touchdown of the day. Nebraska in the end zone in 2 minutes and 10 seconds to open the second half.
I still can't get over that decision. To go for it on 4th and 10, this much time left in the game, but Mike Riley and his return back to Oregon come here just to lay down.
I guess.
Love the aggressiveness. And I think as a player, too, it gives you a sense of confidence, right? You can see that by the way Stanley Morgan really attacked the football and how Tanner Lee threw the football.
And so Oregon set to get it for the first time here in the second half, and they begin the drive from the 25-yard line. Royce Freeman in that first half, 11 carries, 61 yards, and a couple of touchdowns.
Well, you don't want to let him get going. Once he does, he's 240 pounds with a head of steam coming downhill. He's not easy to tackle in space, especially when you get down around the line of scrimmage. His offensive line has done a tremendous job helping to pave the way, but this is where it gets aerial. He truly is a complete running back, and he is the career active rushing leader in the country. Doesn't get enough attention for the job that he does as a running back, how versatile he is. He's have a bright future playing on Sundays.
Well, those 2 touchdowns in the first half, now 50 total in his career. He's got it on the first play of the second half for the Ducks, and he's pulled down by Luke Gifford and Mick Stoltenberg.
General manager Rick Spielman's here, the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously checking out his son J.D. Spielman, who plays for Nebraska, but he's one of the players we talked about. So what do you think about this Oregon Ducks running back, Royce Freeman? Said he is the real deal.
Finally healthy. Dealt with that knee injury that he suffered against Nebraska last year. Dealt with it all year. Charles Nelson gets a block and gets close to a first down with a block coming from Dylan Mitchell. Spotted him just short, 3rd and 1.
You see the production on that play. It's because the safety's put in a bind. If he comes up too fast to make a play on the screen, they're going to end up faking it and throwing in behind him.
Freeman straight ahead. He was hit in the backfield trying to fight for it, but it doesn't appear that he'll get it. And Nebraska on its first offensive possession gets in the end zone, and here has made it 4th down. Well, really, Taggart rolled the dice like Mike Riley did. Not this deep in his own end. And you hear these Nebraska faithful come alive, starting to sense that they've got a shot.
As long as Nebraska takes care of the football, that's been the biggest thing. 2 turnovers, 14 points off those turnovers today. So penalties have hurt them as well.
There's a flag down.
Prior to the snap, false start. Offense number 39. 5-yard penalty, still 4th down.
I mentioned the turnovers and the penalties too, though. If you'll recall, going back to that 4th and inches, the quarterback sneak. You see the penalty forced Nebraska to punt the football and ended up into points for Oregon.
14-point swing. I mean, a game-changing swing on that penalty. It was 28-14 at that point. Nebraska was driving, would have continued. The penalty not happened. I'll do it again. Stack sends it away, and Pierson-El with a fair catch in traffic. He lost it. Scramble for it at the 45. Who's got it? You just mentioned the turnovers being key, and they nearly coughed up another.
I would think that Oregon obstructed the returner's ability to really catch that fairly.
Yeah, there is a flag down. You're right. Carlana Apelu.
Kick catch interference. Kicking team number 86. 15 yards from the spot of the foul. First down, Timeout.
Pello, a guy who just put on scholarship, former walk-on. So either way, this is going to be Nebraska football. The left, pretty good field position, trying to get back into this game. Take a look at our Jeep stat comparison. The two quarterbacks in this game. Herbert's been fantastic. Lee trying to get going after a bit of a slow start.
Last drive, 3 for 5, 74 yards and a touchdown. Obviously that key conversion on 4th and 10. See if he can keep that momentum.
This drive starts at the 47. With play action, he wants Tyjon Lindsey deep downfield, floating it for him, out of his reach. Stride for stride, Thomas Graham again. 2nd and 10.
Where was this aggressiveness in the first half? You obviously want to set up the run game, but I wish you would have saw this from Nebraska earlier in the game, taking more shots downfield, and trying to soften up some of the coverage by this Oregon secondary.
On 2nd down, it's a draw. Bryant has room. Trey Bryant puts his foot in the ground and gets a 1st down to the 41.
When you've got a defense that's starting to be over-aggressive, what do? You run a draw, element of the pass, and then all of a sudden you're running the football and getting movement downfield.
Quick injury update, check in with Bruce.
Yeah, Lana Pellu is starting Mike linebacker for the Ducks. He's out with cramps. They expect him to be back into the game now.
Okay, good to hear that it's not a serious thing for a guy who's had a lot of injury problems throughout his career. With a fresh set of downs, Bryant again slips his way inside the 35 and a 1st down gain of 7 or 8.
It's been the movement up front by the Nebraska offensive line. Starting to see them make some progress, moving some of the big boys up front for the Oregon defense.
But pretty quietly, Bryant has 87 yards now. Bryant again. He's got a 1st down.
Gerald Foster, number 67, leading the way. That's one thing that Mike Riley really asked for out of his offensive lineman, the ability to be able to pull, help create space, help get the running back to the 2nd level.
Nebraska went 75 yards for a touchdown in the first drive of the 2nd half. Took over around midfield this time. And a 1st down from the Oregon 28 with a corner blitz coming. And they throw right at it. They stuck in it even though that it was ID'd. And it turns into a touchdown for Stanley Morgan.
And that's all because of the experience of Tanner Lee. He started a lot of football games, not so much at Nebraska, but at Tulane. He recognized the corner blitz. You can see Amadi starting to cheat coming off the edge, and there was really no adjustment from the Oregon defense. Someone's got to be responsible for Morgan. He just burnt you for a touchdown in the last series. That's where defensive coordinator Jim Leavitt's got to be pulling his hair out somewhere, because these are some of the struggles and the pains that you go through trying to install a new defense.
And if you're Tanner Lee, don't you hold your breath watching him have to one-hand it?
Sometimes the hardest completions are the ones that seem like the easiest.
Nebraska right back in this game, a 2-score game in Eugene. A Go Big Red chant broke out. They're believing again. Back-to-back touchdowns to open this 2nd half, and Nebraska's within 2 scores. Tony Brooks-James spins out of the first man's tackle and then goes down at the 17-yard line.
Tony Brooks-James on the return.
And so suddenly, it's Oregon that seems to be looking at a little bit of adversity, something they didn't deal with last week, something they didn't deal with much of in the first half.
And even though they're up by 14, I think you feel the momentum, not only on the field, but in the stadium kind of swinging in the way of Nebraska. Being a stop defensively in that last drive, their offense now capitalizing on their past 2 drives. This is what you'd like to see out of your team if you're Mike Riley. First true road test. Not giving up. Not going away. Answering the call.
Drive starts at the 18. They've got all three running backs in there for this drive, but have to burn a timeout before they run a play.
Charge timeout. Oregon, they're first. This will be a 30-second timeout.
So Willie Taggart has to use a timeout in a 42-28 game. The biggest play of the second half so far. Mike Riley gambling on fourth down from about the 40. They picked it up with a completion to Stanley Morgan. A couple of plays later, it was Morgan who was in the end zone on this strike from Lee. That made it a 3-score game. Quickly forced a punt. And then beating the corner blitz, Morgan's second touchdown of this second half. It's 42-28. So they stick in this 3 running back personnel they call bully. It's Royce Freeman. Got a great cut block. Got a first down, lowering the shoulder through Aaron Williams.
You throw the Nebraska defense a curveball. You put all 3 running backs in the backfield, and really with Herbert, you've got a 4th rusher. Incredibly hard then to cover down and be responsible for all the guys who could potentially carry the football.
It's Freeman the first time. He's got it again. Same play, other direction. Royce Freeman across the 35 and close to another first down.
And this is a personnel group that Oregon did not show week 1. This is something that they saved for this Nebraska matchup. This is where in-game adjustments become incredibly difficult on any team, whether they're experienced or not. Even more difficult for a team who's got a new scheme they're trying to learn.
Oregon worked on this a ton during the walkthrough yesterday. Down and short. They'll throw out of it for the first time. Herbert into a tight window. It is intercepted. Aaron Williams has it. Aaron Williams into Oregon territory. A 27-yard return. Home Nebraska in the second half so far.
There was really only one man out in the route. Up top, you'll see as he makes his cut for the post, Aaron Williams does a tremendous job of getting back and being there for the tipped football. Heck of a play by cornerback Lamar Jackson to get his hands on the football and not allow the big play.
Ball never should have been thrown there.
Probably not. The tough thing is he might have had a beat on him. Unfortunately, the ball was just thrown a little bit too high. I'm not sure how much lower he could have thrown it, only because of Aaron Williams getting back into coverage.
Here's Bryant. On the same network that brought you UCLA's comeback against Texas A&M last weekend. As Nebraska scoring touchdowns on each of its first 2 drives of the second half after trailing 42-14, and now inside the 40 in Oregon territory on its 3rd drive. Pressure coming. Knocked down and incomplete. Jalen Jelks got his hand on it.
When this play was over before it ever started, talked about Jelks. Look at Troy Dye, number 35. He immediately blitzes through. They see it's a screen, and really the Oregon defense had that sniffed out. That play wasn't going anywhere.
3rd down 6.
Crazy, number 8 Stanley Morgan's not in the game right now. The guy who's so far been incredibly clutch in this second half.
They don't have any starting receivers in. They're going to run it, and it's shut down by Justin Hollins. Curious. 4th and 5. Is Mike Riley going to go for it again? 4th and 10 wasn't enough to convince him to punt. 4th and 5 won't be either.
I love it. This is awesome. An incredible atmosphere. It paid off for you once before. You're putting your trust in your quarterback and in your playmakers to convert once again.
And they bring those playmakers back in. Morgan to the bottom of the screen with Spielman.
That's the matchup they went to last time.
On 4th and 5, pressure coming. Lee beats it over the middle for a first down. J.D. Spielman for the second time in the third quarter, a 4th down conversion for the Huskers.
The redshirt freshman, they bring pressure, and he finds the void in the defense, and Tanner Lee, cool, comfortable, under pressure, gets it there just in time. A little sidearm action by Tanner Lee. I'm telling you, he's one of the more talented quarterbacks. I know this country doesn't know him quite yet, but after what he can do today, they will.
A whistle and a flag. Going to be a false start on Nebraska.
False start. Offense number 89. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
It's a tight end, Connor Ketter.
That's the tough part about this Nebraska offense. It feels like whenever they're starting to get some momentum going, they end up shooting themselves in the foot. Some sort of pre-snap penalty that puts them in a much more difficult situation.
On 1st and 15, off play action. Lee well protected into double coverage. It's incomplete. Somehow snuck it through there, but Morgan couldn't hang on.
I was thinking in my head off of this. There's only 2 guys out in the route, but he kept on Stanley Morgan the entire time. Double coverage. Watch how he threads this throw in there. This will be an incredible angle. He's able to get one hand on the football and almost 2, but what a throw.
I mean, your top receiver, that's a play you got to make. 2nd and 15. Draw play. It's Bryant. Tripped up. Got 3. 3rd and 12. Hugo Amadi, Justin Hollins combining in the tackle.
Well, at this point, the way Nebraska has played so far in the second half, it's really 2-down territory for them. They continually keep going for it on 4th down. So you still really can have a conservative call here. I'm not saying they're going to run the football, but that's still in the playbook, especially if you're planning to go for it on 4th down.
Yeah, they ran it on 3rd and 6 last time, then went for it and converted 4th and 5. Mikael Wilbon in for one of his rare snaps today. Oregon rushes 5. It gets home to Tanner Lee, who got rid of it incomplete. Jonah Moy came untouched.
The offensive line last week for Nebraska didn't play overly well. They gave up a number of negative plays, and here, let's see, Tanner Lee tries his best to evade the pressure. Let's see if his knee was down before the ball came out.
Yep,
it was.
Punt team comes out, and they are going to review this, and they will find that there should be a sack.
The ruling on the previous play was an incomplete pass. That ruling is under further review.
Obviously, Jonah Moy is going to want that for his stats, just to get a sack in the record books. But I think when you're looking at Nebraska, as far as a punter goes, it's just going to give him a little bit more room, especially if they weren't going to go for it on 4th down anyway. Clearly, you can see his right knee is down before the ball is out of his hand. You mentioned that Wilbon was in the game. Kind of a change-up of what we've seen. We've seen a much heavier dose of Trey Bryant today. He should have been responsible for Moy. Moy kind of plays that, I like to call it a joker position, where he's an outside linebacker, but they'll move him inside on 3rd downs, and he'll kind of pick whichever rush lane he wants. In that case, he ended up coming around to the left side of the offensive line, got pressure on Lee, and Wilbon really didn't know what to do.
And it's a Big Ten crew today taking a look at this one. And obviously, after once you make a determination of if he was down, figure out exactly where and how much time there should be on the clock. Here's the verdict.
His knee was on the ground when he threw the pass. As a result, the runner was down before the pass. It'll be 4th and 20 at the 43-yard line.
First Oregon sack of the day. But like you said, it just gives Caleb Lightbourne a little more room.
Both teams out of concern for each other's return game. They've been a little bit more doing directional kicks and punts. See if Lightbourne tries to pin him on one corner of the end zone.
Charles Nelson back at his own 10. Angles it to the sideline. Well done. Caleb Lightbourne pins it inside the 5. It's down by Kyron Williams. Oregon back on offense on a perfect day in Eugene after this. Well, here's a chance to help those affected by Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma by visiting redcross.org or texting Red Cross to 90999 to help you make a $10 donation. After Lightbourne pins him at the 5, Oregon back on offense. Drive begins with a Royce Freeman run, and he sicks the shoulder down through Stoltenberg. We check in with Bruce.
Joe, just to follow up on that about Hurricane Irma, Willie Taggart grew up in Palmetto, Florida, only about 10 miles from the West Coast, and he pleaded with his mom, who still lives there, to evacuate. This morning I talked to him. He said she listened because it's bearing down on the West Coast. She went into a shelter along with his sister, and he feels much more relieved about that now.
Now, Brady, I know you are, that's home for you down there in the Miami area. And you guys went through a week of preparation.
Yeah, very stressful time for my family and I, but fortunately we were able to get out, and hopefully for all those who weren't, they were able to seek shelter and hopefully find safe harbor.
Second down, 7. Freeman again, gaping hole this time. First down to the 19 with a stop from Aaron Williams.
It's the vision, it's the acceleration. That's what he can do. He can really take you out of a bad situation. All of a sudden have a big play as Nebraska's missing a cornerback on the outside.
Freeman again, over 100 yards for the day. A punishing run close to the 30.
I don't know how many people want to be in this position, one-on-one with Royce Freeman in the open field. That's 240 pounds and low man wins. If Freeman get his shoulder down and just deliver a blow to Aaron Williams.
Right now the Ducks putting it on his shoulders. First down gain of 3 or 4.
I think if you're Willie Taggart, that was probably the biggest thing this offseason. Your biggest recruit that you signed was Royce Freeman, because he decided not to go to the NFL. So what's a long story about? Before going home, going back to the West Coast to see some family, he just couldn't get past stopping down to talk to Royce Freeman and his family one more time. And after that conversation, Royce told him that he did indeed decide to come back, and some unfinished business here at Oregon.
He goes out. Kanai Benoit comes in. Took his long carry for a touchdown today. Takes this one for a first down to the 41. And they said Royce Freeman, before Willie Taggart had a chance to address him. There's a flag down here, by the way. But before he had a chance to address him.
Offense number 73. 10 yards from the previous spot. Repeat, second down.
To cancel out the first down. They thought that Royce Freeman was about 80% leaning towards the NFL.
And he said from that conversation, what he basically wanted to hear was his vision. What was Willie Taggart's plan for this Oregon football team? And you can't help but think that maybe some of it had to do with the fact they were going to feed him the rock. 4 touchdowns last week, already 2 today on 19 carries.
So instead of a first down by the 40, it's second down and long. Herbert scans the field, moved the defense with his eyes, and found Dylan Mitchell, who gallops free into Nebraska territory. 36 yards.
What's so impressive is this is a new offense for Justin Herbert, but watch him. He's going to work from the left side of the screen all the way back around to the right and find Dylan Mitchell. He was his 3rd option in the progression. You don't always have to be tight spirals.
And that one wasn't. Pump short. Again, comes across the field, getting through his progression, checking it down for Charles Nelson, which is never a bad idea.
That might have been his 5th option. Almost the same play, but they flipped it. And this time went from the right all the way around to his left.
Second down and 4. And hyper speed again. Underneath, this one shut down. DiCaprio Boodle with the stop, and it'll be 3rd down and short.
You got to love the aggressiveness, too. Boodle did not hesitate whatsoever. As soon as he saw the wide receiver step back for the quick screen, he was there to make the open field tackle.
So 3rd down and 3. Herbert hits the crosser, juggled it incomplete. Antonio Reed was chasing Nelson, and the ball was thrown behind him. 4th down for Oregon.
Probably too far for a field goal at this point. I've seen Nebraska go for a number of 4th downs. Willie Taggart says, why not? As Dylan Mitchell substitute back into the game. The wide receiver with the big play to get them down to this portion of the field.
Their first 4th down try of the day. On 4th and 3 against pressure. He lets it go. It is incomplete. Dropped by the tight end Ryan Bay, who was covered by Chris Webber. And a turnover on downs for the Ducks.
Defensive coordinator Bob Diaco decided to bring pressure. Look at all the bodies up around the line of scrimmage. Herbert knows he has to get the football out. He likes the matchup versus Bay working on Webber. And that's about as good a ball placement as you're going to get. Talk about a back shoulder. That was right there on his left shoulder. Bay's got to be able to make that catch.
Bob Diaco's defense making gains here in his 2nd game as the D coordinator. They've held Oregon off of the board here in the 3rd. Nebraska from the 32, starting the drive with a Trey Bryant run. And he's pile driven down after 3 by Kaulana Apelu, who's back in there after cramping up. And as we wind down near the 1-minute mark of the 3rd, it'll be 2nd and 7.
Gotta love the fact that Nebraska has not given up on the run game. 14-point spread right now is bigger than that out of half. Continue to keep running their offense. They're not in panic mode.
42-14 at the break. Huskers scoring on their first 2 possessions of the 2nd. Lee throws the slant for a 1st down. Stanley Morgan having a big 2nd half, went up and plucked it.
And this is just one heck of a catch. Look at the bottom of your screen. Morgan's going to run a slant route. Lee puts the ball up high. Morgan with the hands to be able to bring this in. Unbelievable.
5th catch of the day for Morgan, and a 1st down for the Cornhuskers at the 44. Trey Bryant over 100 yards on the day, loses a couple here. Justin Hollins and again Apelu combining on the tackle. And that could do it for this 3rd quarter. We have one heck of a 4th in store for you. It was all Oregon in the 2nd, threatening to turn this thing into a rout. It was 42-14 at halftime. Nebraska with the only 2 scores of the 3rd. Buckle up for the 4th. A 2-touchdown game in Eugene. Back on Fox College Football, presented by Volkswagen, and ready for the 4th quarter as part of a great environment here in Eugene. This is one of the traditions. They all sing in unison, shout, as Eugene is the home of where Animal House was filmed. Hard to find a better environment in college football. Part of that environment today has been a lot of red. Nebraska fans always travel well. Had plenty to cheer about in that 3rd quarter as the Huskers climb back into it. The fourth quarter begins with a draw play, and Bryant sticks the nose down and gets to the 47. It was all Oregon in the second quarter today. We're 21 points, taking a 42-14 lead into the second half. But all Nebraska in the third. Trey Bryant yet to get up.
Let's go back and take a look at what happened. This would be absolutely devastating for the Nebraska offense. Let's see, his right knee goes down. I believe that was the leg that they were looking at.
They're cranked under him. Back-to-back 100-yard games for him to start the season. 192 last week. He's got 107 in this one.
After Terrell Newby moving on, starting running back last year for Nebraska, Trey Bryant was the guy the coaching staff really felt confident in being able to take over and carry the load.
You see the brace on that right knee. This is something that he deals with pretty routinely, at least some pain and soreness in that knee, but that did not look good. Beyond the usual pain and soreness that he feels from game action. Remember, he was part of a three-way battle for this spot, so they do have capable guys to fill in for him. And first up will be Mikhail Wilbon.
My concern is this. Oregon's bringing more pressure. The running back's going to be a part of that pass protection. Wilbon, last time we saw that little bit of hesitation when Jonah Moya came through and ended up getting the sack.
Let's see if they bring it here on 3rd down and 6. Only a 4-man rush. Lee with time. He gets intercepted. Thomas Graham, second of the day.
One of the things we really didn't see Nebraska do very often was throw down the middle of the field. A lot of their big gains were to the outside. Really, the last 2 interceptions were to the outside. But watch the shallow cross concept. You're going to see the tight end coming across the field from right to left. You'll see number 4, Thomas Graham. He undercuts the route. He saw it the whole way. Pretty opportunistic and big time for a true freshman.
Boy, Oregon's got themselves a player in this guy.
Yeah, and I don't think Lee ever saw him. I think he started to see that green grass, and Hoppus kind of working to that space and anticipated him being wide open.
Great field position for the Ducks. It's a fumble that Herbert picks up and gets what he can, which is not much. Marcus Newby the tackle.
And the story of the day for Nebraska is on the road, a tough opponent like this, you just can't turn over the football this many times and expect to come away with a win. There's still plenty of time in this game, but you're going to have to make up some serious ground here depending on what happens on this drive.
Second down is Freeman or Brooks James, and he gets 4. They're down 6. And it was Freeman.
Looking at Trey Bryant.
Bryant's knee.
Looks like Luke Gifford's down now on the field.
For an injured player.
The junior out of Lincoln, Nebraska. Played more plays last week than he had played in his entire career. He's continued to play and continued to grow as a player. Very versatile. Slotted in that outside linebacker spot, but in their 4 down fronts actually plays defensive end. So he's in an incredibly important role on this defense.
Mike Riley said he made a bigger jump than anybody on the defense from early on in this calendar year through spring ball, through fall camp, and into a great opener last week. Walks off under his own power, but clearly in pain. A couple of lower body injuries for the Huskers here to key players in this fourth quarter. First, Trey Bryant leaves. Now Luke Gifford headed for the sideline in front of what is a big third down play coming here.
And the toughest part is whenever you have a starter coming out and you're implementing a new scheme is, the next guy coming in behind him, he hasn't that much experience in this defense. So now all of a sudden he's got to take over in a crucial part of the game on a critical down and still execute at a high level.
The kicker for Oregon, by the way, really good one in Aiden Schneider, but his range not great. Career long of 47. From here it'd be 44. On third down and 6. Down the sideline, incomplete. The coverage from Antonio Reed, looking for Charles Nelson, and it is fourth down.
Talk about a fastball. My goodness. Herbert sets back and just unloads and rips this ball. Nelson's got some hops, but didn't get up quite that high.
Yeah, unfortunately, only 5'8". And they do bring Schneider out for a 44-yarder. One of the more efficient kickers in the country, trying to add some range this year. And it is no good. After a 42-point first half, Oregon still scoreless here in the second. And Nebraska's defense, despite opening the drive back into its own end, bows up. 42-14 at halftime. Nebraska has carved that deficit in half and has it here down 2 touchdowns early in the fourth.
If you're the Nebraska offense right now, you got to find a way to get the ball to your playmaker. Stanley Morgan, number 8. He's been the guy that's come up with the big catches in the biggest moments so far today.
And you see it is Mikhail Wilbon in the game at running back with Trey Bryant out. Still getting that leg looked at. Drive starting from the 27 after the missed Aiden Schneider field goal. The fake to Pierson-El. Lee sets up and dumps it off. One-on-one, Pierson-El able to turn the corner. Troy Dye angled him out, second down.
Nebraska trying to set up the play action shot downfield. They had Morgan on a post, but their tight end coming across the field, but the Oregon secondary did a good job playing that soft coverage, not being fooled by the play action fake. Lee wisely checks it down.
A little bit above 50% today. 3 touchdowns, but 3 picks. That's caught by Morgan, and it looks like he's got enough for a first down.
Morgan's going to find the soft spot in the zone coverage. Obviously, the Oregon secondary is respecting his speed, so they're going to give him a little bit of cushion. They'll give him a 7-8 yard gain. They're just not going to give him those big plays. Good Morgan as he continues to fight for yards. Much determination.
They say that he's so tough, so competitive. Big playmaker because of it. First down from the 38. Out of the eye. They fake it. Lee steps up. He's got an open Hoppus who can't hang on. Little bit too tall for the 6'4" senior Tyler Hoppus.
And Hoppus made those grabs last week. Fortunately, just off the fingertips. Lee's got to try to find a way of bringing that football down. He's wide open.
And Nick Pickett had a chance to get the 4th Oregon interception of the day. On 2nd and 10. Keep it in the air. It's a screen with blockers in front. Wilbon gets driven down after 4 by Troy Dye. Recovery by the Oregon defense when it looked like that thing may be setting up pretty for Nebraska.
Trey Bryant still on the sideline. And coming up on 3rd down and 6. They're getting around midfield. It seems like every time now in the second half they get in this situation, you wonder if it's 4 down territory. The only difference now is your defense has showed you the ability to make stops. So maybe you feel like you can still play the field position game because there's 11 minutes left in this fourth quarter.
First look we've gotten at this formation from Nebraska on 3rd and 6. Lee lets it go. It's incomplete. Arion Springs broke in front of Stanley Morgan, and it's 4th down.
The senior out of San Antonio, Texas, comes up with a big pass breakup. You can see him on the right side of your screen. He's going to get into his back pedal. Look at him flip his hips, though. So fluid in the transition. The ball fluttered a little bit behind Morgan. If Lee drives this ball to the sideline, it's most likely a completion, but credit Springs for the big play.
So Oregon's defense comes up with another stop. Claiborne's had a good day punting for Nebraska. Third catch from Charles Nelson at the 15-yard line. A 2-score game midway through this fourth quarter on a perfect day in Eugene. Thrilled that you're here with us. Stick around for the finish. Two-touchdown lead for the Ducks, 10:49 to go. Royce Freeman is over 100 yards for the second consecutive week, and he's our Duluth Trading Company hardest working player.
It's not only him running the football, as let's see, he's been very effective today, but it's also catch the football out of the backfield. The blocking that he's done a little bit from time to time, and pass protection as well. Jack of all trades.
Hardest working player so far, and he's about to work even harder.
Yeah, I mean, this is Royce Freeman time. This is where you really want to pound away with the running game. It's up to him and the 5 offensive linemen up front.
Straight downhill. Short gain on 1st down. An Oregon offense that scored 42 points, racked up more than 400 yards before halftime. Scoreless in the second half and a little more than 100 yards.
If you're a Nebraska fan and you're looking for some progress, I think you've seen it in the second half from this defense. A lot of questions after week 1. Gotten better as the game's gone on.
2nd down and 8. Freeman again. And again, not much doing in the teeth of that defense. Mick Stoltenberg, Mo Berry both there. 3rd down and a long 6. And you see Luke Gifford back in the game after leaving with a lower body injury on the previous possession. Big play coming.
Jacob Breland, number 27, their tight end, has been awfully quiet in this second half. Got to wonder at some point if they get back to throwing him the football.
He's attached to the left side of the formation. Freeman the motion man. Herbert takes it and green grass ahead. 1st down over the 35, and then he's hit out of bounds. What looked like was maybe late, but no call. A gain of 20 to keep the drive alive.
You're concerned about the speed of number 6, Charles Nelson, as he comes across in motion, and then it leaves that gaping hole in the left side of the defense. It's flowing with the motion and the action.
What a great play call from Willie Taggart. Back to Freeman. Stoltenberg starting to wreak havoc for Nebraska up front. 6'5", 300-pound junior. He was slowed by injuries early last year, but has gotten healthy, has added weight, turned into a really good player.
65 pounds since he got to Nebraska, and 20 in this past offseason as he transitioned from a defensive end down into the nose.
Looks like a nose now. 2nd down 9. Tony Brooks-James replacing Royce Freeman, and nowhere to go. Chris Webber combining with Marcus Newby. And it's 3rd down and long for the Ducks.
I think the toughest part for this Oregon offense is in 3rd and long, must-pass situations. We only have 2 guys in the field that have a ton of experience. It's number 6, Charles Nelson, and the tight end, Jacob Breland. And with a 2-touchdown lead, you're going to elect just to run the football, continue to churn time off the clock.
Both those guys to the top of the formation. Breland closest to the ball. Here comes Nelson in motion. They put it in his hands, trying to get the edge. He can't. He's brought down Chris Webber back-to-back plays for the Nebraska defense, and it's 4th down inside of 8 minutes.
Again, conservative play call. You can see Willie Taggart wants to rely on his defense. Feels like with a 14-point lead, punt away the football, make Nebraska earn it the long and hard way. See if his defense can come up with another turnover. You've already seen Tanner Lee throw 3 interceptions today.
Pierson-El, early on in his career, game-changing ability as a return man. Slowed by a knee injury. They say he's as healthy as he's been since that All-American freshman year. See if he gets a chance here on a stacked punt. It's a wobbler. Nebraska set to get good field position at the 30. Stack's punt travels only 37 yards. Nebraska with it, down 2 scores, running out of time. Back in a moment. Seven minutes left in this one. Moments ago, Joe Salavea, the assistant head coach of this Oregon squad, trying to light a fire under his defense, his defensive line, as they're back out there trying to protect the 2-score lead.
He was one of those big gets. The staff for Willie Taggart. Talked about Jim Levitt a lot. Salavea is one of the other coaches. Marcus Arroyo, Mario Cristobal. I mean, it is an all-star cast here at Oregon.
So who's it going to be for Nebraska? It's been all Stanley Morgan when they've had success. Who else can step up? Lee sets the feet. Lets it go. Tipped in the air and incomplete. Thomas Graham nearly got his 3rd interception of the day.
And Lee's got to be careful. He does a very good job of anticipating these throws, but that wasn't open. I mean, Hobbs got caught up trying to come outside on the sail route, and Graham got his hands on the football again. I understand you got to take chances, but again, 1st down, take the check down, continue to move forward with the drive.
On 2nd and 10. Lee over the middle. There's Morgan. Stays on his feet for a 1st down to the 45 on his 7th catch of the day, putting him over 100 yards.
And that time Lee hesitated. Last time he threw a ball over the middle, it got intercepted. He kind of pumped and then released the football, just making sure that Morgan was open on the in-cut.
First down from the 45. They fake the run. Lee all day to throw. Too tall again. Into a similar spot. Looking for J.D. Spielman. 2nd and 10.
It looked like he had Spielman open earlier in the route. Kind of waited too long as he was passing through the zone coverage, and he got to the other side where once again Thomas Graham became effective.
6:15 left to go. Nebraska's offense averaged 11 yards per play over the first 2 drives of the 2nd half. Less than 2 per play since. Lee again, time to scan. Incomplete. Morgan was the man he was looking for. Troy Dye with a coverage, 3rd and 10.
Big 3rd down. And if you're Oregon, do you decide to bring pressure? Try to hit home to Tanner Lee? And Nebraska, I would assume, will try to work the ball to number 8, Stanley Morgan. I mean, he's been the guy that's come up clutch throughout this entire 2nd half.
And if you're Oregon, do whatever it is you've been doing. 9 consecutive 3rd down stops. This perhaps the biggest one of the afternoon. 3rd and 10 for Nebraska.
And there's Morgan.
That play clock down to 5. They just barely get it off. A twist up front picked up. Lee with time to throw. Incomplete. Out in front of his intended receiver, Ketter.
They've worked this concept a number of times. They're trying to find that soft spot over the middle. See, he's trying to wait for everything to clear in front of him. That's just a throw that you've got to be able to make. Just out of the reach of Ketter.
Punt team comes out. Oregon's defense comes up with another stop. Claiborne hits a line drive. Charles Nelson will have a chance. Quickly wrapped up and dropped. Special teams tackle from Tony Butler on a 41-yard punt from Lightbourne. Oregon trying to grind some clock with a 2-touchdown lead and 5:50 to go from Autzen. Oregon, after 42 points in the first half, has been held off of the board in the second. Nebraska bursted out of the gates to get to within 2 scores, but he's kept it right there. Nebraska, or Oregon's offense, back out trying to grind away some clock with a 2-touchdown lead and 5:50 left.
Clearly you're going to get a heavy dose of Royce Freeman, but always keep your eye on Justin Herbert. We saw him with the big run the last drive. We'll see how many times he decides to keep it on this one.
Freeman straight ahead on first down. Nebraska's defense has done a good job over these last couple of drives, shutting him down. DeAndre Thomas, the tackle here.
It's kind of odd always seeing Oregon playing that up-tempo offense and now really slowing things down as they try to eat up time off the clock.
Saying the same thing. It's jarring. Right it all the way down inside of 10. Herbert gets him going now. On 2nd and 7. Johnny Johnson takes the fake. Freeman takes the ball. And stopped at the 20. The ball comes out and Nebraska's got it. First Oregon turnover, or second Oregon turnover of the day, comes at a huge time for Nebraska, who takes over at the 22.
Let's take a look and see if this ball came out before Freeman was down. And clearly right there, you could see the ball was actually coming out before he was spun around by Antonio Reed, number 25.
And then Marcus Newby got on top of it.
Ruling on the field was the ball was fumbled, recovered by the defense for a first down. That ruling is under further review.
And the look's going to be to see when the ball was coming loose, when he lost control or possession of the football, if his thigh or backside touched the ground before the ball came out. I think that's pretty definitive right there. There was a fumble. Should be Nebraska football.
Yeah, you don't assume this will take long. And it was actually Aaron Williams who was on top of that. So with 4:56 left to go, Nebraska's going to have the football.
After further review, the ruling on the field of fumble recovered by Nebraska is confirmed. First down.
At the Oregon 22-yard line. And we've got a finish coming here, partner.
And with 4:56 left in this game, we saw out of halftime Mike Riley being incredibly aggressive on 4th down, going for it in midfield. Now you've really got to go for it. This is all 4-down territory from here on out.
Still no Trey Bryant. Mikhail Wilbon, the running back, on first down from the Oregon 22. Wilbon's got it. Nothing doing. Stopped by Mondu and Jordan Scott.
Look at Jordan Scott. They list him at 6'1", 335 pounds. I got to tell you, after seeing him yesterday, I don't think he's above 5'10".
Yeah, I think the weight is probably accurate, the 335, but
well, look, he does his job. Clogs things up the middle. Just need to be in a little bit better condition to be able to be out there in the field more often.
2nd down and 9. Lee looking left, floats it to the end zone, incomplete in front of Morgan with a coverage from Ariane Springs.
Well, if you're Oregon, I don't know how you leave them one-on-one on the outside. Stanley Morgan's been the only guy who's really played a big impact for Nebraska at the wide receiver group, and this ball just is not catchable. If anything, put some air under it, you can underthrow it. We've seen Stanley Morgan come back and make a play on the football.
And so 3rd down and 9 in a situation where a field goal does you no good. Lee under pressure. The ball is out. Justin Hollins ripped it out of there. Nebraska recovers it at the 16 or 17-yard line where it'll be 4th down. And a flag flies out now that it appears will go on Oregon.
Hollins had a sack last week. See him use an inside move. Strong hands to get the lead. Beating Gerald Foster to knock the football out.
After the play was over, unsportsmanlike conduct, defense number 39. Half the distance from the end of the run, automatic 1st down.
Kaulana Apelu.
Unsportsmanlike conduct foul.
At the worst time, called for the unsportsmanlike conduct, and instead of 4th down, it's 1st and goal.
Breathing life into Big Red. Unbelievable.
This was 42-14 at halftime. Nebraska got touchdowns on each of its first 2 drives of the 2nd half. Now trying to take advantage of the takeaway with a 1st and goal from the 8.
Question is, how effective is the running game going to be? Bryant's still out.
Wilbon in against a crowded box. Here's the sweep. Tyjon Lindsey driven out of bounds at the line of scrimmage by Dye. Let's look back at that penalty thrown on Apelu.
So they're obviously trying to go for the football. Let's see what Apelu does as he gets up.
Didn't see anything there.
No.
Would have come after. Three minutes left to go. 2nd down and goal. Lee against pressure. Floating for the end zone. Incomplete, but a flag. Anugochukwu Amadi as he looked to the end zone for Spielman.
It was one-on-one on the outside.
Pass interference, defense number 7. Foul occurred in the end zone. By rule, the ball be placed at the 2-yard line. Automatic 1st down.
Stanley Morgan tried to come inside and kind of set a little rubber out for Spielman. Ball underthrown, but the difference here is the wide receiver has a chance to come back and make a play. Forces Amadi in the pass interference.
That is the 12th Oregon penalty of the day. Now Nebraska has it 1st and goal at the 2 inside of 3 minutes. And a timeout.
30-second charge timeout, Oregon.
You got to keep in mind, if you're Nebraska, you still have all 3 timeouts. If you're able to convert here, you don't have to necessarily kick an onside kick.
Yeah, during this timeout, we check in with Bruce.
Guys, Willie Taggart and Joe Salve were screaming for the goal line personnel, and only one guy really could hear them. They had to burn a timeout because their guys just could not communicate and look at the signals.
The 2nd one for the Ducks. 1 left for Willie Taggart. And 1st down and goal to the 2, but like you mentioned, their big running back, Trey Bryant, out with the injury, and Mikel Wilbon, who is not as powerful of a runner, is in there.
I think the tough part for the Oregon defense is you look at Jordan Scott, number 34. He's a freshman. Not a ton of experience in this scenario. Number 99, Austin Faliu. Another true freshman. Knows the guys right there at the point of attack, responsible for trying to stop this Nebraska offense.
McNitt leads the way for a Wilbon run. He's in. Touchdown, Nebraska. At one point down by 4 touchdowns. In the closing minutes, back to within a score.
Well, a guy who should get more credit who stepped up today, right tackle Matt Farniok, taking over for David Neville at that right tackle position. You haven't heard a lot about him today for good reason. He's done his job. Right side of the offensive line got it done.
Drew Brown's extra point makes it a 7-point game. So the Royce Freeman fumble proves costly. So does the Kaulana Pelu flag that extended the drive on 4th down. And they give it to Wilbon to get in the end zone for the touchdown.
This is really what you'd like to see out of your team if you're Nebraska. Complementary football. The defense gets the turnover. The offense is able to convert it into points, but this is also spurred by Oregon. The Appello penalty was huge to provide Nebraska new life.
Another penalty, a pass interference on Amadi. Put the ball down at the goal line and gave Wilbon an opportunity. And now an Oregon offense that scored 42 in the first half but has been shut out in the second. They'll try and seal this game.
As I said before, plenty of time if you're Nebraska. You got 3 timeouts. Clock obviously stops after a gain 1st down, so they don't have to onside kick here. They can still kick off the field position battle. See if their defense can get them another stop.
But how about Mike Riley, who's coached in some huge games in this stadium? All of them as the Oregon State head coach. Only 1 win here while he was coaching the Beavers. Either way, no doubt he's proud of the way his team has fought back to make this thing interesting. Ant's team is out there for Oregon just in case. 2:47 left to go. And they do drill it. So the drive will start at the 25. Well, what a nice tune-up this is for the second game of our doubleheader on Fox. Stanford and USC at 8:30 Eastern in a top 15 matchup. And then not too far from here in Corvallis, Oregon State and Minnesota. It's coming up later tonight. We've got a great finish coming in this one in Eugene.
Big one in the Pac-12, seeing conference play this early. Saw in week 1 in the Big Ten with Ohio State and Indiana. Now we're seeing it in the Pac-12. So what for this Oregon team? I have something to say about the Pac-12 this year. A lot of people maybe underestimate how good they are. Now they have the chance to prove it, though. This will be a big series for the Ducks.
Royce Freeman, 128 yards on the ground. Has it on 1st down, and Stoltenberg's there to greet him at the line of scrimmage. It's been a big 4th quarter for Mick Stoltenberg at that nose spot. Mike Riley uses his first timeout. Take a look at the road ahead, sponsored by Coors Light. Talking about that Oregon team trying to make some noise in the Pac-12 this season. This will not be an easy game they have coming up next at Wyoming.
They've got a heck of a quarterback there in Josh Allen. Some NFL scouts are talking about him potentially being the #1 overall pick in next year's draft. But you look on down the list, Washington State, at Stanford, at UCLA versus Utah. I mean, the Pac-12 has a lot of parity. This is a conference that went undefeated last week. And you look at the conference as a whole, so it's not going to be an easy road, but you'd have to think whoever wins the Pac-12, with as much competition as there is, will be looking at a spot in the college football playoff.
2:41 to go. Nebraska 2 timeouts left. 2nd and 9 for Oregon. Freeman again. Gifford stops him. 3rd down and 6. And another timeout burned by Riley. 1 of them left. That was the Oregon schedule. Here's what Nebraska has coming over the remainder of the season. They're back home to host Northern Illinois on FS1 next week. And then into the Big Ten schedule with Rutgers before playing a Friday night game on FS1 at Illinois.
The toughest stretch is clearly October 7th and October 14th. Wisconsin and the Buckeyes, get them both at home. That's a plus, but tough stretch. And we're looking at the West Division of the Big Ten. All of a sudden, you look at down the road, having to go to Minnesota. That's going to be tough. Then Penn State, even though they're in the East, and then back again versus Iowa. So tough finish and tough stretch there from October 7th to the 14th.
So 3rd down and about 5 here coming for Oregon. Are you keeping it on the ground with Freeman, or do you have to open it up here?
Looks like they've got a number of options in their backfield. I feel like this bully personnel provided issues for the Nebraska defense before. We'll try it once again.
It's Brooks James, contacted in the backfield, has nowhere to go, and the black shirts come up big. Antonio Reed, the first man there. The Nebraska defense gets it back with 2.5 to go.
A new wrinkle to the offense this week for Oregon. This bully personnel, but the same play the Nebraska defense saw before. And I think you got to give credit to the Nebraska defense for making the in-game adjustments. I'm sure they didn't practice this throughout the course of the week, but after they saw it earlier in the game, they made the adjustments. That real fly sweep they try to utilize to get to the outside. Reed with the big play.
And you hear the 15 or 20,000 red-clad fans that have made the trip from Lincoln in here. Pierson-El back to return the punt from Adam Stack. Nebraska sets up the return. It's a line drive. Pierson-El with an opportunity, but he takes a fair catch on a 36-yarder. So with 2:17 to go. Nebraska out of timeouts. Tanner Lee, who transferred from Tulane, wanted to play in the big games, wanted to play in the big environments. Got a win at Memorial Stadium in his debut. Finds himself here with a chance to have his first signature moment as the Nebraska quarterback.
And the big key right here is just get this drive off to a good start. Don't force anything. Utilize all your downs, utilize your check downs, and just get this thing started and see if you can build up some momentum and get close to the end zone.
Largest comeback in Nebraska history, 21. They trailed this game by 28 at halftime. Lee has his arm hit and it's intercepted. Amadi with the pick. Out of bounds at the 35. Jonah Moy, the man that had that ball flying in the air. And it leads to the 4th interception of the day for the Ducks.
Just what we talked about a moment ago. Just get the drive started. There's Jonah Moy, number 3. He's going to rush high to the outside. They try to match him up with a tight end. And that's just not enough in protection to be able to keep Tanner Lee from feeling the pressure.
Amadi with his 2nd interception of this season. So Oregon takes over at the Nebraska 35. Yet another opportunity to try and put this one on ice. Drive begins with a handoff left side. Royce Freeman's got a first down.
If you're Freeman, you got to find a way to stay in bounds there. He's played enough football to know that. Stopping the clock only helps the Nebraska defense.
Situation where the Huskers are out of timeouts. Up runs when they set the football at the 23. Freeman again makes a cut. Downhill to the 16 with a stop from Dedrick Young in 1:20 and counting. Oregon has not scored in this second half, but they're a minute away from still surviving. A 3-touchdown second half for Nebraska. Huskers can't stop the clock anymore.
There's positive takeaways really for both teams. If you're a Nebraska fan, you're excited about the way they fought to come back into this football game. And for Oregon, I think you're looking at an offense that really has something special in the quarterback in Justin Herbert.
And he is featured in our progressive performance of the game, throwing for 365 and 3 scores.
Really an efficient day when you look at the work of Justin Herbert. Got off to a fast start, with the deep route to Schooler. Follows it up with a nice little corner of the end zone pass to Charles Nelson. Really got off to a hot start. Only 4 incompletions in the entire first half. You see him utilizing that strong arm with a fastball to Dylan Mitchell.
And so the Ducks will start the Willie Taggart era 2-0, passing their first big test here. Without scoring in the second half, they hang on 42-35 despite the furious rally from Nebraska. Stay tuned for Rob Stone and the guys in Los Angeles. More post-game coverage coming up after these messages following this 42-35 Oregon win.